Never in my life did I ever think I would ever watch Titanic 2. Man, y'all read the title of the video, and today we're going to be deep diving into the world of cinema. Not the Oscar winners or critically acclaimed films, nah. We're going where very few dare to tread. The land of the worst, low-rated, just straight doo-doo, stereotypical, unfunny movies ever made. Yeah, that's right. I've got this iceberg here, and we're going to go through every single one. It's so bad. Some of these are so bad that it makes Pluto Nash in 3D look like a fucking masterpiece. But some of them are also, it's like, that's not too bad. But I'll let y'all decide for yourselves when we go through them. Yeah, we're just gonna go through this iceberg, look at every single one, and at the end of every movie, I'm gonna include like a little letterboxd review. And note that the letterboxd rating does not express how I personally feel about the movie. Alright, so let's just jump right into it. And first off, we have tier 1, and our first movie is 365 Days. And this is a Polish erotic drama film that was released in 2020. And it's based off of the first book of a trilogy, and it's known for its explicit sexual content. It tells the story of a young woman who was kidnapped by a powerful Italian mafia boss. So the film starts off and introduces this girl named Laura, who's a successful and independent Polish woman, and she's in like a troubled relationship with her boyfriend Martin. And during a trip to Sicily, Italy, Laura is kidnapped by Massimo, who is a young and attractive Italian mafia boss. He sees her and he's just like, I want her. Give me. He had actually seen her in a cafe years earlier and believed she was the woman in like a prophecy dream that he had. The prophecy was like, yeah, this woman will bring happiness into your life. So Massimo kidnaps her and tells her that she has 365 days to fall in love with him, and he will release her after that period. And yeah, she's initially terrified, but she kind of does end up falling in love with him because Stockholm syndrome, I guess. She gets taken to Massimo's luxurious villa and she's held against her will. And she actually does try to escape and resist Massimo, but that doesn't happen. And she actually starts to have mixed feelings when she spends more time with him. Like, her emotions become conflicted because she is attracted to him, but she's like repulsed by him because, this guy fucking kidnapped her. The plot actually ends up thickening when Laura becomes the target of rival mafia families seeking revenge on Massimo, and her life is in danger, and she's like caught up in between this feud, which kind of turns her on a little bit more, I guess. The film reaches an end when Laura's feelings for Massimo become undeniable. She's in love with his ass, and the ending is kind of like open-ended, leaving the audience to wonder about the future of this fucked up, complicated relationship and setting the stage for the continuation of their story. And yes, there's a second one, and yes, it is on this fucking list. Now, this movie kind of received mixed reviews, mostly bad from critics, and faced a lot of controversy because it was criticized for its, of course, explicit and graphic content, which many found to be excessive and gratuitous. And some viewers and critics argued that it normalized toxic and abusive behavior within relationships, particularly the way Massimo literally kidnapped, controlled, and manipulated Laura. Film was also accused of romanticizing kidnapping and sexual violence, which led to calls for its removal from streaming platforms and widespread debates about its content. Critics pointed out that it failed to handle sensitive subjects responsibly and depicted an unhealthy and not consensual relationship. While the movie gained popularity due to its provocative nature and the chemistry between the lead actors, it faced backlash from those who found its themes and portrayal of relationships deeply problematic. Also, yeah, I forgot to add that a lot of these movies, like as we get deeper down, a lot of these movies are actually so bad that they're free to watch on YouTube. So yeah, if you ever want to check out some of these, you know where to go. I think I wrote something similar to this when I was 15 on Wattpad. Half a star. Alright, next up we got Batman and Robin, and Batman and Robin is a 1997 superhero film and is the actual fourth installment in the Batman film series. The movie stars George Clooney as Batman and Chris O'Donnell as Robin, or Dick Grayson. The film opens with the introduction of Batman and Robin, who continue to protect Gotham City from crime. However, their partnership becomes strained when Batman is reluctant to let Robin take on dangerous missions. Additionally, a new threat emerges with the introduction of Mr. Freeze after a lab accident, and Freeze uses a special suit to survive in sub-zero temperatures and uses his freeze gun to steal diamonds to power his freezing technology. Meanwhile, a woman, Pamela Isley, a botanist, is transformed into the villain Poison Ivy after an attempt on her life by her boss, and she gains the ability to control plants and uses his power to manipulate people. Now, Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy actually end up joining forces to carry out their sinister plan of freezing Gotham City and then repopulating it with a new society of mutant plants. And as the film progresses, Batman and Robin and their new ally, Batgirl, must find a way to stop Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy's plan, and they end up working together to thwart Mr. Freeze's plan while dealing with their own, side plots, I guess. The film reaches its climax as Batman and his team confront Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy in a final battle and save Gotham City from being frozen forever. I loved this movie as a kid, bro. I'm not gonna cap. This movie was heat to me as a kid. Rewatching it now, it's kinda it's campy. It's great, but it's This was widely panned by critics and is often considered one of the weakest entries in the Batman film franchise, and it received criticism for its campy and colorful style. Overuse of puns, oh my god, the puns are so, oh my god, Mr. Freeze's puns. Ugh, Jesus.
The Iceman cometh. I'm afraid that my condition has left me cold to your pleas of mercy. Everything freezes. You are not sending me to the cooler. What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
There's so many of them. And there's a certain portrayal of the characters that are done in a way that it felt overly cartoonish. And the villains are also pretty one-dimensional. Mr. Freeze is just let's freeze the city, and I make puns. And Poison Ivy is just I'm sexy and seductive, and I have evil plants. You either die the Dark Knight or live long enough to see yourself become Batman and Robin. 2 stars. Alright, next up we got Battlefield Earth. And Battlefield Earth is a 2000 science fiction film based on the novel of the same name by L. Ron Hubbard. Pretty decent writer, a lot to live up to. The movie is known for its critical and commercial failure and is often regarded as one of the worst films ever made. It stars John Travolta as the lead alien character Turl and Barry Pepper as the human protagonist Johnny Goodboy Tyler. The film is set in the year 3000, 1,000 years after the Earth has been conquered by a race of ruthless aliens known as the Cyclos. These aliens have enslaved humanity and reduced it to a nearly primitive state. And Johnny Goodboy Tyler is a young human living in a small primitive tribe in the Rocky Mountains. He becomes curious about the ruins of the old world and sets out on a journey to explore them, and he discovers the ruins of a military jet and realizes there's more to human history than he has been told. Johnny's journey leads him to a group of fellow humans who have managed to evade the Cyclos and retain some knowledge of advanced technology, and together they start a rebellion against their alien oppressors with the goal of reclaiming the Earth. As the rebellion gains momentum, Johnny and his fellow humans discover an underground vault that contains a wealth of advanced technology and weapons from the old world. Eventually, Johnny comes into contact with Turl, a Cyclo security chief, and in a twist of fate, Turl sees the potential for profit in Johnny and decides to use him to mine for valuable minerals in radioactive areas which are hazardous for the Cyclos. The film ends up reaching a climax as Johnny and the rebel forces launch a full-scale attack on the Cyclo base, and they utilize the advanced technology that they have discovered to challenge the oppressive alien regime and win back humanity's freedom. The movie is criticized for its convoluted plot, very, very poor special effects, overacting, and the performance of John Travolta, who is also a producer on the film, and the film's direction, dialogue, and overall execution were all panned by critics. The movie's association with Scientology as its source material was written by L. Ron Hubbard, which raised concerns and added controversy. And they're also oh my god, bro, there are so many fucking Dutch angles. It's it makes me just pee. What the fuck half a star. Alright, next up we got Birdemic, Shock and Terror. And this is a 2008 very low budget horror film. And the movie gained notoriety for being unintentionally bad and is often considered one of the worst films ever made, like many on this list. It follows a very simple premise. A small coastal town is suddenly attacked by a horde of vicious, poorly animated, and explosive birds. The film opens with the introduction of Rod, a software salesman, and Natalie, a fashion model, who both live together on the small coastal town of Half Moon Bay, California. And when the two cross paths in a cafe, it suggested that they might be developing a romantic connection. However, their relationship is interrupted when the town is inexplicably attacked by a swarm of birds. The town experiences a sudden and relentless onslaught of eagles and vultures. The birds, depicted as poorly animated and lifeless creatures, cause mayhem, destruction, and numerous explosions. Rod and Natalie now try to team up together and work to survive this avian apocalypse. As the film progresses, Rod and Natalie team up with some other survivors, including Ramsey and his girlfriend Becky, and they embark on a journey to escape the bird attacks and find safety. The group faces various perils along the way, including, of course, bird attacks, lack of supplies, and challenges of surviving a post-apocalyptic world. And they encounter a mysterious scientist who offers some explanation for the bird attacks, suggesting that they are the result of global warming and pollution. The film reaches its climax as Rod and his group of friends face a final confrontation with the birds, and they make a final stand to ensure their survival. Now, this movie is widely panned by critics and viewers alike, as its poor production values, including abysmal special effects, awkward dialogue, wooden acting, and disjointed plot, have earned it a reputation as one of the worst films in cinematic history. However, the film's lack of self-awareness and unintentional humor have led it to becoming a cult classic, with audiences enjoying it as a so bad it's good experience. It's called the Birdemic, Shock and Terror because this movie will shock and terrorize you for the rest of your life. Half a star. Alright, next up we have Cats, and Cats is a 2019 musical fantasy film, and it's based off of Andrew Lloyd Webber's 1981 musical of the same name. And yeah. The movie opens in a London alley where a tribe of cats known as the Jellicles gather for an annual event called the Jellicle Ball, and during this special night, one Jellicle cat is chosen to ascend to this celestial realm and then be reborn. Victoria, a young and abandoned cat, is introduced to the Jellicle tribe, and she quickly becomes part of their community and learns about the various cats' personalities and dreams. The Jellicles continue to face various challenges, including the tricks and magic of Macabity, who aims to eliminate his competition for the ascension. The film ends up culminating in the Jellicle Ball, where the Jellicles showcase their unique talents, with each cat making their case to be chosen for ascension. The film reaches its climax as Grisabella, a former glamour cat, now down on her luck, is ultimately selected to ascend and be reborn. This received highly polarized and predominantly negative response from both critics and audiences, as the film was widely criticized for its visual effects, which involved the controversial use of motion capture technology to depict the characters as anthropomorphic cats. Many viewers found the digital fur and appearance of the characters to be very unsettling and uncanny, and the film's plot was also seen as thin and disjointed, with some viewers finding it difficult to follow. Yeah, despite the star-studded cast and the popularity of the source material, Cats was met with widespread ridicule and mockery. It's regarded as a prime example of well-intentioned but poorly executed adaptation. God is dead. No stars. Speaking of cats, next up we have Catwoman, and this is a 2004 superhero film that stars Halle Berry. Oh my god. The film is based loosely off the DC Comics character Catwoman and was a critical and commercial disappointment. It has since gained the reputation as one of the worst superhero movies ever made. Big shout out to Cosmonaut Variety Hour. He made a really good video on this movie. Go check it out if you want to, but only after you're finished watching this video. The film introduces Patience Phillips, a timid graphic designer working for a cosmetics company, and she's dissatisfied with her life and feels trapped by her job and her overbearing boss, George. One night, she stumbles upon a dark secret within the company she works for as she overhears a scientist scientist discussing the dangerous side effects of the company's new product, Bowline. When Patience is caught snooping, she is murdered by security guards and left for dead. Her life ends up taking a supernatural turn when an Egyptian Mao cat breathes life into her, and this grants her enhanced agility, strength, and feline-like abilities. She gets superpowers. She transforms into Catwoman, adopting a whole new personality and a confident persona. She is now driven by a desire for revenge against those who wronged her and a newfound sense of justice. She embarks on a journey to uncover the truth behind her company's dangerous cosmetic products and its connection to the death of a scientist, and she also forms a complicated relationship with a police detective named Tom, who's investigating a series of thefts that Catwoman is linked to. As Catwoman ends up getting closer to the truth, she must confront George and his wife, Laurel, who've been using the Bowline and have developed superhuman strength and agility. Catwoman confronts Laurel and battles her for control of the cosmetics company and the fate of Bowline, and Catwoman ultimately emerges victorious, exposing the dangerous side effects of the product and defeating her adversaries. Now, this has met widespread negative reviews from critics and audiences, and it was heavily criticized for its plot, special effects, dialogue, and the decision to deviate significantly from the comic book source material. The film's departure from the traditional Catwoman lore, as well as the lackluster portrayal of the character, disappointed fans, and the completely over-sexualized nature of the character's costume and film's approach to feminism were also controversial and faced criticism. And thus far, Catwoman has been often cited as a prime example of how not to adapt a beloved comic book character to the big screen. You've gotta be kidding me. Half a star. Alright, next up we have Date Movie, and this is a 2006 romantic comedy film, parody film. It's part of this group of movies, and they're all parodies. They're all pretty doo-doo. The film opens with Julia, an overweight, clumsy young woman who works in her father's diner. She's unlucky in love and desperately wants to find her soulmate. She visits a dating service run by Hitch, and he takes on the challenge of transforming Julia into the perfect romantic match. He puts her through a series of hilarious and absurd training sessions to prepare her for the dating world, and during her makeover, she loses a significant amount of weight and transforms into a stunning beauty. Julia's transformation allows her to meet and date several eligible bachelors, and she encounters parodies of characters from various romantic comedies. Each date is a comical and exaggerated take on the romantic comedy genre, and the film reaches its climax as Julia realizes that her true love is Grant, the winner of The Bachelorette, and the movie ends with Julia and Grant happily married. There's a couple more of these parody movies from the 2000s, and bro, they're so bad. I don't know. I just don't like them. It's 2000s humor, if that makes sense. Yeah. It was widely panned by critics and received negative reviews for its reliance on crude humor, juvenile gags, and over-the-top parodies, and was criticized for its lack of wit and clever satire, as well as its excessive use of gross-out humor. The film's lowbrow humor and parody style, which often bordered on tasteless, were seen as a major factor in its poor reception, as many critics and viewers found the film to be lazy and an uninspired spoof that relied on easy targets without adding any significant comedic value. Date Movie itself is considered one of the key films responsible for the proliferation of low-quality parody movies that emerged in the 2000s and early 2010s. All I have to say about this film can be said in one sentence: half a star. Alright, next up we have Dirty Grandpa, and this is a 2016 comedy film that stars Robert De Niro as the titular Dirty Grandpa and Zac Efron as his grandson, and the story revolves around an older man who convinces his straight-laced grandson to accompany him on a road trip filled with outrageous and raunchy adventures. The film opens with the funeral of Dick Kelly's wife, and his grandson Jason Kelly is an uptight corporate lawyer who is about to get married to his controlling fiancée Meredith. Despite his wife's recent passing, Dick reveals that she gave him permission to have fun and live life to the fullest after her death. Dick then goes on to convince Jason to take a break from his responsibilities and join him on a wild road trip to Daytona Beach, Florida, under the guise of visiting an old friend. However, it becomes clear that Dick has other plans in mind, as along the way they encounter a series of comically absurd situations, including encounters with wild college students, drug use, and inappropriate behavior. During their journey, Jason meets Shalia, a free-spirited college student, while Dick pursues Lynette, Noor, an adventurous young woman. And Jason and Shadia form a romantic connection, causing Jason to question his own impending marriage to Meredith. Jason uncovers Dick's true intentions and realizes that Dick wants to relive his youth and ultimately attend spring break in Daytona Beach, where he hopes to meet with a woman he had once loved. Jason is initially upset, but eventually joins Dick in his quest for one last adventure. The film reaches its climax during spring break in Daytona Beach, where Jason confronts his feelings for Shadia and his realization that he should live life on his own terms, not according to society's expectations. And the film ends with Jason and Shadia happily exploring their newfound relationship and Dick finding closure with his past. Now, this movie received overwhelmingly negative reviews from critics who criticized it for its obvious, crude, and offensive humor, as well as its reliance on shock value. The film was also criticized for its wasting the talent of actors like Robert De Niro and Zac Efron in a movie that was perceived as lowbrow and in poor taste. The film's humor, which often relied on inappropriate and offensive jokes, was a major factor in its poor reception, as many critics and viewers found the film to be a raunchy and offensive comedy that lacked depth and sophistication. The film's attempt to blend humor and heart was seen as uneven, resulting in a film that was widely regarded as a missed opportunity. This film restored my faith in cinema. 5 stars. Alright, next up we have Disaster Movie, which is one of those movies. And this is a 2008 parody film, and the movie is known for spoofing a wide range of disaster and science fiction films, as well as pop culture references. The film opens with Will, the main character, having a nightmare about being crushed by a meteor, and he awakes to find himself in his bed with his girlfriend Amy, and they soon discover that a meteor is headed towards Earth and chaos ensues. As the meteor crashes into the city, Will and his friends must navigate the disaster and they escape a series of increasingly absurd and exaggerated disasters, including a meteor shower, earthquakes, a tornado, and a devastating attack by the masturbating bear. Will and his friends, which include characters parodying famous figures from movies and pop culture, encounter various disaster movie scenarios and meet a range of iconic characters along the way. The film takes an opportunity to lampoon multiple pop culture icons, and each reference is presented in a comedic and exaggerated manner. The film reaches its climax as the group faces battle with various pop culture characters and parodies in an epic showdown, and the characters must find a way to save the world and escape the chaotic situations they find themselves in. Now, this movie received overwhelmingly negative reviews from both critics and audiences, and was criticized for its reliance on juvenile and crude humor, its disjointed plot, and its failure to deliver clever and satirical humor. The film was seen as a prime example of the decline of the spoof genre, with many finding its gags to be uninspired and tasteless, leading to Disaster Movie frequently being cited as one of the worst films in the spoof genre, and is often used as an example of how not to execute a successful parody movie. Shittier than the shittiest shit in all shits. Half a star. Alright, next up we have Dragon Ball Evolution, and this is a 2009 American live-action adaptation of the popular manga and anime series Dragon Ball. It is known for its significant departures from the source material, and it was met with widespread criticism from fans and critics. The film opens with the introduction of Goku, a high school student with extraordinary martial arts abilities who lives with his grandfather, Gohan, and discovers that he is the keeper of a valuable Dragon Ball, a magical orb that grants wishes when all 7 are collected. Goku's life takes a dramatic turn when he encounters Bulma, who is searching for the Dragon Balls. A powerful and ancient enemy named Piccolo is also after the Dragon Balls to gain immense power and dominate the world. Goku and Bulma embark on a journey to find the Dragon Balls and prevent Piccolo from achieving his sinister goals. Goku receives training from Master Roshi to harness his full potential and control his innate powers, and they continue on their quest, encountering various challenges, including a confrontation with the villainous Mai. As they gather the Dragon Balls, they discover that Goku is a Saiyan, a warrior with immense potential, and the final battle against Piccolo ensues as they try to prevent him from using the Dragon Balls to destroy the world. In the climactic battle, Goku harnesses his newfound powers to confront Piccolo and ultimately defeats him. The Dragon Balls are then used to resurrect those who have died during the conflict, and peace is restored. Now, this was poorly received by fans and critics, as the film was widely criticized for its deviations from the source material, the casting choices, that being, well, white. The special effects are pretty poop, and one of the major criticisms was the lack of faith to the original Dragon Ball series, and fans of the franchise felt that the film failed to capture the essence and spirit of the source material. And this is often cited as one of the most disappointing adaptations of a beloved anime and manga series. Is the perfect description for this film. Easily one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I didn't even watch Dragon Ball Z as a kid, and I'm still offended by this abomination. Half a star. Alright, next up we have Epic Movie, and yeah, this is one of those. And this is a 2007 parody film. Like many of the others, it spoofs popular films and pop culture references, and this one focuses on epic and fantasy genres. The film opens with a young girl named Lucy who discovers she is a prophesized hero. However, her story quickly takes a comedic turn when she is transported to the magical land of Narnia. And she embarks on a quest to save Narnia from the evil white bitch who seeks to maintain her rule over the land. She is joined by a motley crew of parodied characters, including Peter, Susan, Edward, and a half-man, half-fawn, Mr. Tumnus. The group encounters a series of adventures and parodies of popular epic and fantasy films, including Pirates of the Caribbean, X-Men, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and Harry Potter. And the film eventually reaches its climax with the final battle against the white bitch and her minions, and the movie ends with Lucy and her friends successfully defeating the white bitch and restoring peace to Narnia, and they return to the real world where Lucy becomes a heroic figure. Now, this movie was received poorly by critics and audiences, and was criticized for its reliance on more juvenile and crude humor, as many of these spoof movies were, and its use of pop culture references kind of felt outdated even at the time of its release. Critics and viewers found the film's humor to be forced and uninspired, and many considered it a weak and unoriginal parody of popular epic and fantasy films. F*** off. Half a star. Alright, next up we have Food Fight, and this is a 2012 animated film that was actually in development for a long time and was released with significant production issues, leading to its extremely poor reception. And the film is set in the fictional world of Marketropolis, a city inhabited by various brand mascots and food products, and Dex Dog Detective, voiced by Charlie Sheen, a serial mascot and private detective, is in love with Sunshine Goodness, a raisin mascot. The world is thrown into chaos when the evil brand X arrives, and they aim to replace well-known food products with their own generic brands. Now, Sunshine Goodness ends up mysteriously disappearing during the grand opening of the Copa Banana nightclub, and Dex Detective is determined to find her. He's joined by his loyal friend, Daredevil Dan, a chocolate squirrel, and other brand mascots, including Cheezel T. Weasel. And the film follows Dex's investigation as he uncovers a plot involving the evil brand X and a scheme to take over the city's food industry. He faces a series of comedic and action-packed challenges, all set in the world of familiar food products and brand mascots. As Dex Detective and his friends confront Brand X, the battle ensues to save their beloved food products from being replaced, and the film's climax is a showdown between the forces of good and evil, featuring various action sequences and comedic moments. The film ends with Dex and his friends successfully defeating Brand X and saving Sunshine Goodness, and the city of Marketropolis is restored to its original state. This movie was met with overwhelmingly negative reception from both critics and audiences, and was criticized heavily for its poor animation, crude humor, and overall lack of quality. The film suffered from production issues, including financial troubles, which resulted in its extended development time and subpar animation. The film's animation quality was particularly criticized, as it was considered to be far below the industry standard, even for an independent production, and the character designs and animation were seen as unappealing and off-putting. And Food Fight is frequently cited as one of the worst animated films ever made, with many considering it a failure on multiple levels. The movie that's running on the monitors in the waiting rooms for hell. Half a star. Alright, next up we got Jack and Jill, and this is a 2011 American comedy film and stars Adam Sandler in dual roles as the twin siblings, Jack and Jill. And the film revolves around the comedic premise of a family visit turning into chaos when the obnoxious and needy twin sister, Jill, comes to visit her brother Jack during Thanksgiving. The film opens with Jack, a successful advertising executive living in LA with his wife Erin and their kids, and Jack is dreading the annual Thanksgiving visit from his twin sister Jill, who is loud and obnoxious and often overstays her welcome. Jill arrives in LA for Thanksgiving, and her behavior immediately annoys Jack and disrupts Jack's daily life, including his work and social interactions. The film showcases various comedic situations as Jill's antics create chaos and embarrassment for Jack, and Jack tries to set up Jill with Al Pacino, who plays a fictionalized version of himself in the hopes of getting him to appear in a commercial for a client. Pacino becomes infatuated with Jill, leading to further comedic misunderstandings.
I know that ain't who I think it is.
Hey kids, you want some candy?
The chaos reaches its peak during Thanksgiving dinner, where Jill's presence causes tension and awkward moments, and she feels unappreciated and decides to leave. However, Jack realizes that he misses his sister and apologizes to her, prompting her to return, and the film ends on a more harmonious note. This was widely panned by critics and is often considered one of the worst films in Adam Sandler's career, and it received multiple Razzie Awards, including Worst Actor for Adam Sandler as Jill and Worst Actress for Sandler as Jack. The film was criticized for its juvenile humor, lack of compelling storyline, and over-reliance on lowbrow gags. And the decision to have Adam Sandler play both the male and female lead roles was seen as particularly cringeworthy and the off-putting aspect of the film. Additionally, the film's product placement was pretty excessive and detracted from the viewing experience. No. Half a star. Alright, next up we got Meet the Spartans, on another one of those American comedy parody 2000 films. And it spoofs the 2006 film 300, but incorporates references to various other popular films in pop culture. The film opens with King Leonidas, ruler of the Spartans, preparing to go to war against Xerxes and his Persian army. However, Leonidas is rejected by the oracle, and with his small group of loyal followers, embarks on a mission to defend Sparta. As Leonidas and his team journey to meet Xerxes, the film inserts various parodies and references to contemporary movies, celebrities, and pop culture. The Spartans go on to engage in battles with the Persian army, including absurd and comical confrontations that parody the intense action sequences of 300. Leonidas and his team ultimately end up confronting Xerxes, leading to a comedic showdown, and the film concludes with a parody of the American Idol competition where the characters engaged in a musical face-off. This was widely panned by critics and audiences and was criticized for its lowbrow humor, like many of the other 2000s spoof films, excessive pop culture references, and lack of original jokes. The film was considered to be a prime example of the type of movie referred to as parodies, and the genre was then seen to be losing favor with critics and viewers due to the perceived decline in quality and humor. The cinematic equivalent of being shot in the face. Half a star. Alright, next up we got Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and this is a 1997 martial arts fantasy film, and it is a sequel to the 1995 film Mortal Kombat, and is based off of, as you may know, the popular Mortal Kombat video game franchise. The film picks up where the first Mortal Kombat left off, as the villainous Shao Kahn disrupts the peaceful victory celebration of the Earth Realm, and Shao Kahn and his army invade the Earth Realm, violating the rules of Mortal Kombat and threaten to merge the two realms into one. The Earth Realm warriors, including Liu Kang, Sonya Blade, and Johnny Cage, must regroup and prepare to battle Shao Kahn's forces to save their world. However, a sudden attack by Shao Kahn's extermination squads results in Johnny Cage being killed. As the Earthrealm warriors try to regroup and train new recruits like Jax and Katana, they also face encounters with various Mortal Kombat characters including Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Reptile, and Katana ends up discovering her true parentage as the daughter of Shao Kahn. The key to preventing the merging of the realms lies in the resurrection of Queen Sindel, who is Katana's mother, and the Earthrealm warriors embark on a quest to find her body and return her to the Earthrealm. The film culminates in a final battle between Liu Kang and Shao Kahn, and Liu Kang uses his inner strength and knowledge of Mortal Kombat to defeat Shao Kahn, preventing the merger of the realms, and Raiden, the god of thunder, also sacrifices his immortality to help the Earthrealm. Now, this was poorly received by critics and fans of the Mortal Kombat franchise, and it was criticized for its weak plot, poorly choreographed fight sequences, and subpar special effects. complex. The film's attempt to incorporate too many characters from the video game series led to a cluttered and confusing narratives, and the absence of several key actors from the first film and the replacement with new lesser-known actors contributed to a lack of continuity. The film's overall production quality was seen as inferior to the first installment, with many considering it a rushed and low-budget sequel. I don't want to tell tales out of school, but this movie isn't entirely coherent. Half a star. Alright, next up we got Scary Movie 5, and this is a 2013 American comedy film and is the 5th installment of the Scary Movie franchise, which is known for parodying popular films, primarily horror and science fiction movies. The film opens with a parody of the found footage horror film Paranormal Activity and follows a young couple, Dan and Jody, as they experience paranormal occurrences in their home after bringing home Dan's 3 orphan nieces. Soon, strange and comedic supernatural events begin to unfold, including the babysitter's exorcism attempt gone wrong. As the supernatural occurrences escalate, the film introduces a variety of other parody elements, referencing multiple movies, including Mama and Black Swan, and the narrative ultimately revolves around resolving the supernatural threat and restoring normalcy to the household. This was widely criticized by critics and audiences and was seen as a significant decline in the franchise's quality compared to earlier installments, and the film was criticized for its reliance on easy, crude humor and lack of fresh and clever parodies, and the absence of key cast members from the previous films in the series. The comedy was considered lazy and uninspired, with many jokes relying on vulgar humor and shock value rather than wit and satire, and this was seen as the downfall of the Scary Movie franchise. I didn't go see this in theaters, but I want my money back all the same. Half a star. Alright, next up we got Showgirls, and this is a 1995 American erotic drama that stars Elizabeth Berkley as Nomi Malone, who is a young woman that aspires to become a Las Vegas showgirl. The film opens with Nomi Malone hitchhiking to Las Vegas, and she dreams of becoming a famous dancer and eventually arrives in the city. She finds herself working at the Cheetah Club, a strip club in Las Vegas, and befriends Molly Abrams, a seamstress, and becomes involved in the lives of the club's dancers. Her ambition to become a showgirl leads her to audition for the Stardust Hotel and Casino's production, Goddess, and she gains the attention of Crystal Connors, the star of Goddess, and her boyfriend, Zach Carey. Nomi's ruthless pursuit of success takes her to new heights in the world of Las Vegas entertainment, and she becomes romantically involved with Zach and begins to undermine Crystal's position in the show. As Nomi continues her journey, her ruthless ambition and manipulation take a toll on her relationships with those around her, and the film climaxes in a dramatic showdown between Nomi and Crystal during a performance of Goddess, and Nomi ultimately takes the lead role, cementing her position as a showgirl. Now, this received a substantial amount of criticism upon its release and was considered one of the worst films of the year and was widely panned by critics. The film's explicit sexual content, nudity, and graphic scenes led to its notorious reputation, and the film's dialogue and performances were often ridiculed, and it was seen as an exploitative and gratuitously sexual work. However, over the years, Showgirls has gained a cult following for its unintentional camp appeal, but it remains widely recognized as a poorly received film. Straight people are not allowed to have an opinion on this. 4 stars. Alright, next up we got Son of the Mask, and this is a 2005 American comedy that serves as a sequel to the 1994 film The Mask, and it opens up with the mythological Norse god of mischief, Loki, who seeks the legendary mask of Loki, a powerful artifact that bestows its wearer with incredible abilities, and the mask previously worn by Jim Carrey's character in the first film has now resurfaced. We are introduced to Tim Avery, a struggling cartoonist who works for an animation company, who is married to Tanya, who desperately wants to have a baby. Tim is hesitant about becoming a father as he feels overshadowed by his pet dog Otis, and one day, while nightmarishly late for a company costume party, Tim discovers the mask hidden in his family's basement. He decides to wear it to the party and unknowingly unleashes its supernatural powers, and as a result, he becomes outlandish and an uncontrollable party animal. Tim's use of the mask leads to bizarre and supernatural events, including his uncontrollable dance moves and the night of passion with his wife, resulting in her pregnancy. Tanya quickly becomes pregnant and have what they believe is a normal child. However, Loki arrives on the earth in search of the mask and discovers that its powers have been transferred to the child. Loki tracks down Tim and begins manipulating his life in various absurd ways to retrieve the mask's powers, and the film climaxes in a series of absurd and over-the-top confrontations between Loki Tim and the magical entities of the mask, and Loki tries to take the powers away from Tim's infant son. In the end, the son becomes a temporary wielder of the mask powers, creating chaos, and Tim and Loki engage in a final showdown. This was overwhelmingly panned by both critics and audiences, and it was criticized for its lackluster plot, weak humor, and of course the absence of Jim Carrey, who had been a major draw of the first film. The film's humor, often juvenile and slapstick, fell flat, and its reliance on special effects was seen as excessive and poorly executed. The sequel was considered a poor follow-up to the original Mask, failing to capture its charm and energy. It was perceived as a cash-in on the success of the first film and was widely regarded as a misfire. Bruh. Half a star. Alright, next up we got Speed 2 Cruise Control, and this is a 1997 action thriller film that is a sequel to the 1994 hit film Speed. While Keanu Reeves did not return for the sequel, Sandra Bullock reprised her role as Annie Porter. The film opens with Annie and their boyfriend Alex on a Caribbean vacation, and Alex is a LAPD officer who left his job to be with Annie. They are enjoying their time together until Annie discovers that Alex has re-enlisted in the LAPD without telling her, creating tension in their relationship. The plot takes a turn when we are introduced to John Geiger, played by Willem Dafoe, who is a former computer hacker who was fired by the cruise ship company Seaborn Legend for attempting to steal from them. Geiger harbors a deep grudge and hatches a plan for revenge. He uses his knowledge to take control of the ship's computer systems, and as the ship sets sail, he begins his attack on passengers and crew. He disables the ship's navigation systems, shuts down communication, and accelerates the ship to a dangerous speed. Panic ensues among the passengers and crew as they realize they are on a collision course with an oil tanker. And Annie, having experience with a similar situation in the first film, takes it upon herself to try and stop Geiger's plan. With the help of Alex, they work together to thwart Geiger's plot to destroy the ship and save the lives of everyone on board. A high-stakes action sequence ensues with Annie and Alex fighting against Geiger and struggling to regain control of the ship. After several tense moments and intense fights, they manage to disable the ship's computer and avoid a catastrophic collision with the oil tanker, and Geiger is ultimately captured and brought to justice. This film was widely criticized by audience and critics, and the film suffered due to several key factors, including lack of Keanu Reeves, which disappointed many fans, and the plot, of course, was repetitive and was basically a rehash of the original with a different setting. The characters and relationships didn't really feel compelling as they did in the first film, and the plot was criticized for being less engaging and suspenseful, and some of the action sequences were considered overly exaggerated and bordering on absurd. This movie was largely seen as a disappointment and a subpar follow-up, which contributed to its poor reception. Why does this exist? 2 stars. Alright, next up we got Super Mario Bros. And this is a 1993 science fiction adventure comedy film loosely based on the popular video game and series of the same name. And the film opens with a prologue explaining that a meteor strike that wiped out the dinosaurs in the past created an alternate reality where dinosaurs evolved into humanoid reptilian species. And in this parallel world, the human-like dinosaurs coexist with humans, but tensions exist between the two species. We're introduced to Mario and Luigi, who run a plumbing business in Brooklyn, and when Luigi meets and falls for a woman named Daisy, he becomes involved in a conspiracy concerning a parallel universe. Daisy, an archaeologist, has discovered a mysterious meteorite fragment, and she ends up being kidnapped. Luigi and Mario discover a way to follow Daisy into the alternate universe using the meteorite fragment, and the brothers find themselves in the dystopian post-apocalyptic parallel world resembling a dark industrialized city. They encounter various strange creatures. As they search for Daisy, they learn about King Koopa's plans and the oppressive regime that he established in the parallel world. They also discover that Daisy is a missing princess of the reptilian realm and a key figure in Koopa's scheme. Mario, Luigi, and their allies, including Toad, embark on a mission to rescue Daisy and stop King Koopa's plan, and along the way they face various challenges and obstacles, including confrontations with Koopa's henchmen. The film culminates in a showdown between Mario, Luigi, and King Koopa, and using the meteorite fragment, they thwart Koopa's plan and return the parallel worlds to their natural states. Daisy is reunited with her true family, and the brothers return to their own world. This was very much poorly received by critics and fans of the video game series, as it heavily deviated from the source material. The film took significant creative liberties with the source material, resulting in a story and setting that were far removed from the beloved video games, and the film's plot was seen as confusing and poorly explained, making it difficult for viewers to engage with the story. This film's special effects, including the portrayal of the parallel world world were criticized for being subpar and unconvincing, and despite the two actors' talents for Mario and Luigi, they were not seen as fitting choices for their roles, which disappointed fans. Super Mario Bros. Has since become notorious for its poor adaptation of the video game and its underwhelming execution, and it remains a cult classic for its unique interpretation of the Mario universe, but is widely regarded as a critical and commercial failure upon its release. Fuck you, I love this movie. 4.5 stars. Alright, next up we got That's My Boy, and this is a 2012 comedy film that stars Adam Sandler as Donnie Berger and Andy Samberg as Todd Peterson. It's a raunchy and often controversial comedy that explores themes of family dysfunction and coming to terms with one's past. The film opens in the early 1980s, where a middle school student, Donnie, has an inappropriate sexual relationship with his teacher, Mary, which results in her pregnancy. The scandalous affair makes Donnie a tabloid sensation, while Mary is sentenced to prison for 30 years, and she gives birth to a son whom she names Han Solo. Meanwhile, Donnie becomes a washed up, irresponsible adult, and in present day, Donnie is facing financial trouble and learns that he owes a large sum in back taxes. Desperate to raise the money, he decides to reunite with his estranged son, Todd Peterson, who distanced himself from his father by changing his name to avoid association. Donnie discovers that Todd is about to marry Jamie, which would potentially make him wealthy due to her family's wealth, and Donnie crashes the pre-wedding events, creating chaos and friction. Donnie's immature and reckless behavior continually sabotages Todd's efforts to maintain a normal life, and Todd's wedding plans become increasingly turbulent as Donnie's antics alienate him from his family and threaten his relationship with Jamie. Realizing the damage he is causing, Donnie tries to mend his relationship with Todd, and he admits that he exploited Mary's fame, but genuinely loves his son. The two start to bond, and Donnie helps Todd make amends with his fiancée and her family. The film concludes with Todd and Jamie's wedding, where Donnie gives a heartfelt speech and offers Todd a present, a toy Han Solo action figure. This received largely negative reviews from both critics and audiences, as it was criticized for its crude and vulgar humor, as well as its reliance on shock value to generate laughs. Some also found the film's storyline to be in poor taste, as it centers around a teacher-student sexual relationship, a subject matter that didn't sit well with many viewers. Adam Sandler's performance was also deemed subpar, and the film was seen as a departure from his earlier, more successful comedic works. I Am Become Death, the Destroyer of Worlds, J. Robert Oppenheimer, after creating Adam Sandler, half a star. Alright, next up we have the Emoji Movie, and this is a 2017 animated film that takes place in a world inside a smartphone and follows the adventures of various emojis with a central character named Gene who can display multiple emotions. It starts in Textopolis, a city within a smartphone where emojis live, and Gene is a meh emoji, but unlike the other meh emojis, he can display multiple expressions. He is worried about fitting in and conforming to his assigned role, and whenever he's called upon to express meh for a text message sent by Alex, the phone owner, he panics and displays a series of random, inappropriate expressions, and as a result, he is considered a malfunction and marked for deletion. To avoid being deleted, Gene escapes into the phone's messaging app, and he is joined by High Five, who is voiced by James Corden, and Jailbreak, who is a codebreaker emoji. They embark on a journey to find the cloud, where they believe Gene can be reprogrammed into a proper meh emoji, and their journey takes them through various digital landscapes and apps within the phone, including a perilous game of Candy Crush and a dance-off with a group of robots in the Just Dance app. They are pursued by Smiler, the determined, somewhat menacing leader of the emoji world who wants to delete Gene to prevent any further malfunctions, and during their journey, Gene learns to embrace his uniqueness and not conform to society's expectations. Jailbreak, who initially resisted the idea of emotions, also comes to accept her own feelings for Gene, and the trio reaches a cloud where they meet the hacker emoji, who is revealed to be an older version of Jailbreak. She helps Gene, but Smiler arrives and captures him, and there is a showdown, and Gene's parents, Mel and Mary, come to the rescue, and Gene and Smiler are both returned to Textopolis. Gene's display of multiple expressions is eventually celebrated, and High Five is given a new purpose as a wallpaper emoji, and the emojis of Textopolis learn to accept different expressions. I'm not gonna lie, bro, if you've seen Wreck-It Ralph, this is basically it. This movie received overwhelmingly negative reviews from critics and audiences, and was criticized for its perceived lack of originality, reliance on product placement, and shallow storytelling. Many found the film's concept to be gimmicky, and felt that it was a missed opportunity to explore more meaningful themes in the digital age. The Emoji Movie is often regarded as one of the worst animated films ever made, and is frequently cited as an example of poor quality in animated cinema. No More, 1.5 star. Alright, next up we have The Last Airbender. And this is a 2010 fantasy adventure film directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and the movie is based off of the popular animated series Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm 99% sure all of you know like how most of this shit went. The film is set in a world divided between 4 nations. You know, the Fire Nation has waged war against the other nations, seeking to control and conquer the world. Aang, or fucking Ong, is discovered and trapped in ice by Katara, and and Sokka. Oh my god. Aang, who has been frozen for a century, awakens to a world torn apart by war, and he learns that as the Avatar, or Avatar, he is the only one that can bring balance to the world by mastering all 4 elements. He, Katara, and Sokka set out on a journey to help Aang develop his bending abilities, and the trio is pursued by Prince Zuko of the Fire Nation, who believes capturing Aang will allow him to regain his honor and position in the Fire Nation. They encounter various challenges and characters along the way, including the Earth Bending Village and the hidden city of the Northern Water Tribe. Yeah, they tried. The climax of the film occurs at the Northern Water Tribe, where the Fire Nation launches an attack during a lunar eclipse. Yeah, they're able to beat the Fire Nation, and like there's like I don't know, bro. It kind of ends on a cliffhanger because there was gonna be a part 2, and I'm pretty sure like there's an extra credit scene or whatever of Azula, and yeah, it was met with overwhelmingly negative reviews, and it was criticized for its poor pacing, terrible performances, and deviations from the source material. They mispronounce like almost all the characters' names. I think they do this on purpose. Either they did it and they were just ignorant of the real names, or they did it on purpose to differentiate themselves from the animation. Either way, it's really bad, and fans were disappointed by the film's failure to capture the depth and complexity of the source material. The film's special effects and 3D conversion were also criticized as subpar, and many felt that The Last Airbender was a missed opportunity to adapt a beloved animated series into a successful live-action film. Imagine carrying a baby for 9 whole months, dealing with sickness, pain, and childbirth, and then it grows up to be the person who made this movie. Half a star. Alright, next up we have The Love Guru, and this is a 2008 comedy film starring Mike Myers as a titular character. And the film is a satirical take on the self-help and spiritual gurus and their attempts to solve relationship and personal problems. The film introduces Guru, an American who was left at the gates of an ashram in India as a child and raised by gurus, and he becomes the second best guru in the world. And Guru Pitka, who is known for his unorthodox and humorous methods, becomes famous for his self-help books, merchandise, and his own TV show. Now, Jane Bullard, owner of the Toronto Maple Leafs, hires Guru Pitka to help her star player, Darren, regain his focus and performance as he has been affected by his wife's affair with the opposing team's star player. Guru Pitka accepts a challenge and travels to Toronto, where he faces skepticism of the team's coach, Cherkov, and yeah, he employs his unconventional methods to help Darren with his relationship issues and personal insecurities. Guru Pitka ends up falling in love with Jane, and they like start a relationship, and Darren doesn't really work out with his wife, but he scores like the winning goal in the championship game, so that kind of makes up for it. I don't know. This was pretty bad. The film was criticized for its lowbrow humor, reliance on crude and sexual jokes, and perceived as insensitive towards Indian culture, as it played on various Indian stereotypes for comedic effect. Mike Myers' performance as Guru Pitka was also criticized for being over the top and not living up to the comedic standards of his earlier work, such as the Austin Powers series. The film's humor and overall plot were considered juvenile and unfunny, leading to its poor reception. At 87 minutes, this is somehow the longest film I've ever watched in my life. Half a star. Alright, next up we have The Ridiculous Six, and this is a 2015 Western comedy film, and it's a satirical take on Western movies and features Adam Sandler in the lead role, playing a man named Tommy. The film opens with Tommy as an orphan being raised by Native Americans in the Old West, and yeah, Tommy becomes known as White Knife because he is particularly skilled in knife throwing. Tommy's life takes a turn when he meets a man claiming to be his long-lost father, Frank Stockburn. However, Frank's arrival is short-lived as he is kidnapped by a gang led by Cicero, who wants Frank to reveal the location of a hidden fortune. Tommy then sets out to rescue his father, who tells him that he needs the money to save his kidnapped mother. Tommy's journey leads him to encounters with 5 half-brothers, each with a unique set of skills, and these brothers include Ramon, a Mexican donkey rider with a short temper, Lil Pete, a simple-minded and highly acrobatic man, Herm, a large, gentle man who has a talent for drawing, Danny, a well-mannered and skilled gunslinger, and Chico, a piano-playing, smooth-talking charmer. Together, the Ridiculous Six embark on a series of comical adventures, encounters with outlandish characters, and mishaps as they attempt to gather the money needed to rescue Tommy's mother and save his father from Cicero. They hatch a plan to rob a corrupt bank in order to obtain the money, and their attempts at robbery are marked by slapstick and humor and absurd antics, and along the way they also confront various stereotypes and prejudices, highlighting the challenges faced by diverse characters in the Old West. The film's climax involves a showdown with Cicero and his gang as the Ridiculous Six attempt to rescue Frank, and Tommy ultimately defeats Cicero, rescues his father, and retrieves the hidden fortune. In the twist, it is revealed that Frank was not actually Tommy's father, but rather a childhood friend of Tommy's father. The group disperses, with Tommy deciding to stay with his newfound brothers and help them build a new life. This received overwhelmingly negative reviews from critics, as it was highly criticized for its reliance on crude humor and offensive stereotypes, particularly in its portrayal of Native Americans. Controversy surrounding the film led to allegations of cultural insensitivity and prompted several Native American actors to walk off set during production. The film's content and approach to humor were widely criticized for perpetuating stereotypes and engaging in offensive portrayals of various groups. As a result, The Ridiculous Six was poorly received both critically and by audiences, making it one of the lowest rated films in Adam Sandler's career. I remember when this movie came out, there were like 3 other different Western movies. It was like The Ridiculous Six, The Magnificent Seven, and The Hateful Eight, and they all came out at like the same time, and they were all Western movies. It was a crazy time to be alive, man. I no longer fear death. Half a star. Alright, next up we got The Room, and The Room is a 2003 independent film that is also regarded as one of the worst movies ever made, achieving a cult status for its unintentional humor and bizarre storytelling. The film opens with the character Johnny, a successful banker in San Francisco who is engaged to Lisa, and the relationship seems perfect on the surface, but Lisa is secretly unhappy and is having an affair with Johnny's best friend, Mark. As the story progresses, it becomes evident that Lisa is manipulative and scheming, while Johnny is oblivious to her deceit. Lisa falsely claims to Johnny that she has breast cancer, using this as an excuse to break up with him and continue her affair with Mark. And the film features a number of bizarre and seemingly unrelated subplots, such as Denny, a young man who is infatuated with Lisa and owes money to a drug dealer, and various side characters who appear without clear purpose. The film builds toward its tumultuous climax as Johnny discovers Lisa's infidelity and the betrayal of his friend, and the dramatic confrontation ensues, leading to Johnny's emotional breakdown. In the film's most iconic and bizarre scene, Johnny trashes his own apartment, uttering lines like, "I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her." Yeah.
It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
The film ends tragically with Johnny committing suicide in a fit of despair, and Lisa and Mark are seemingly unaffected by the tragedy and go back to their relationship without remorse. The film is infamous for its abysmal quality, characterized by its nonsensical plot, bad acting, bizarre dialogue, and technical errors, and numerous continuity mistakes. It has gained a cult following as an unintentional comedy, with audiences attending midnight screenings to mock and celebrate its absurdity. It was initially a commercial failure, however, its notoriety has since turned it into a cult classic, and the director Tommy Wiseau has embraced its status as the Citizen Kane of bad movies. I only trust people who rate this movie with a full 5 stars or half stars. Anything between that is not acceptable. Half a star. Alright, next up we have The Wicker Man, and this is a 2006 horror thriller film. The story revolves around a police officer's investigation of a missing child on the remote island off the coast of Washington state. The film opens with a traffic accident in which a truck crashes into a car, resulting in a tragic fire, and the protagonist, police officer Edward, played by Nicolas Cage, is unable to save a mother and daughter from the burning car. Sometime later, he receives a letter from his ex-fiancée, Willow, who lives on a remote island in Summers Isle. Willow claims that her daughter Rowan has has gone missing and pleads for his help. He travels to the isolated island, which is inhabited by a matriarchal pagan community led by Sister Summersisle, and he begins his investigation into the disappearance of Rowan, but the islanders deny any knowledge of the girl's existence. As he delves deeper into his investigation, he encounters strange and unsettling rituals performed by the islanders, and he finds evidence of their obsession with fertility and sacrifice, which raises suspicions about Rowan's safety. As he continues to investigate, he uncovers the island's most terrifying secret. The inhabitants plan to sacrifice Rowan in a pagan ritual to ensure a bountiful harvest, and the film's climax leads to the famous Wicker Man scene where Malice is captured and placed inside a massive Wicker Man effigy, which is set ablaze as a part of the ritual. The film ends with the horrifying scene of Malice being burned alive in the Wicker Man, while Sister Summersisle and the islanders watch. This 2006 remake of Wicker Man received overwhelmingly negative reviews and is often considered one of the worst films of the 21st century. Fans of the 1973 original Wicker Man were disappointed with this adaptation, as it deviated significantly from the source material and the eerie atmospheric tone of the original. Nicolas Cage's performance was considered over the top and often unintentionally humorous, and his infamous line, "Not the bees," during a scene involving a bee mask torture became a meme.
Oh, no, not the bees! Not the bees! Ah! You bitches! You bitches!
The film failed to generate genuine scares or tension, despite the potential for a compelling horror story, and the tone is uneven, with moments that are unintentionally funny, in stark contrast to the subject matter.
Is hers? Tell me!
Yes, I think yeah.
How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
I don't know!
And lastly, the plot contains numerous inconsistencies and unresolved questions, leaving viewers very frustrated. Violence against women is wrong, unless done by Nicolas Cage in The Wicker Man. Then it's hilarious. Half a star.
What is it? What's wrong, sister?
Alright, moving on to tier 2. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I hope you enjoy this pain, this never-ending pain. First off, we have 1,000 Words, and this is a 2012 comedy drama film that revolves around the concept of a man who can only speak 1,000 words before he dies. The film introduces Jack McCall, played by Eddie Murphy, who is a fast-talking literary agent with a knack for charming his way into deals. Jack is focused on his career, often at the expense of his own personal life, including his relationships with his wife, Caroline, and their young son, Tyler. One day, Jack discovers a mysterious tree in the garden of a spiritual guru named Dr. Sinja, and after an encounter with the tree's leaves, he finds that he has gained supernatural connection with the tree. However, the twist is that every word he speaks or writes now causes a leaf to fall from the tree. Once all the leaves have fallen, Jack will die. As he grapples with his newfound condition, he realizes that he must use his words wisely, and he consults Dr. Sinja, who gives him advice to mend his relationships and make amends with those he has wronged. This leads to comical and heartfelt situations as Jack tries to communicate without words and at the same time attempts to maintain his career. He reconciles with his estranged mother and his childhood friend Aaron, and his relationship with Aaron becomes particularly important as they work together to secure a book deal with the famous self-help author Samantha Davis. He realizes that the only way to save himself is to apologize to his wife and repair their damaged marriage. Jack finally learns to appreciate the value of nonverbal communication, and in a moment of sacrifice, he writes a heartfelt letter to his wife using his remaining words, and in doing so, he saves his own life and strengthens his relationship with those that he loves. Now, this generally received negative reviews from critics upon its release, as it was criticized for its derivative and predictable plot, as well as its reliance on slapstick humor and sight gags. Eddie Murphy's performance, while charismatic, couldn't save the film from its predictable, formulaic storytelling, and the film's concept of limited word count as a life or death situation was seen as a unique premise, but it didn't fully explore the potential for meaningful storytelling. I have nothing to say. 1.5 stars. Alright, next up we have Alone in the Dark, and this is a 2005 action horror film loosely based on the video game series of the same name. And the film begins with an ominous prologue detailing the discovery of ancient artifacts in a New Mexico cave by a civilization known as the Abkhani, and the artifacts are found to contain a otherworldly power, but the Abkhani civilization is mysteriously wiped out. In the present day, a paranormal investigator, Edward, is tasked with uncovering the truth of these artifacts, and he is haunted by fragmented memories of his own past and a mysterious symbol. Edward, along with his anthropologist ex-girlfriend Aline, are drawn into a government conspiracy involving a secret experiment called Shadow Island, which aimed to harness the power of the Abkhani artifacts, and a nefarious scientist, Professor Lionel Hudgens, is revealed to be behind the experiment. As Edward and Aline investigate, they encounter mutated creatures and paranormal phenomena, and they discover that Professor Lionel seeks to open a portal to another dimension using the artifacts, which would unleash powerful and malevolent creatures on Earth. Edward and Aline confront the professor on Shadow Island, and a climactic showdown ensues involving the activation of the artifact and portal, and Edward ultimately destroys the artifact, closing the portal and preventing the catastrophic event. The film ends with Edward and Aline continuing their paranormal investigations, hinting at potential for a sequel. This was panned by critics and often cited as one of the worst video game adaptations in film history, and was criticized for its weak plot, incoherent storytelling, poor character development, and subpar special effects. The film's action sequences were considered dull and uninspired, and the casting and performances were also subject of criticism, with Christian Slater's lead role receiving mixed reviews. The film's attempt to blend action and horror elements resulted in a confusing and unsatisfying viewing experience. The director, Uwe Boll, known for making terrible movies, received negative attention for his direction of the film. I was hoping I'd fall asleep. 0.5 star. Next up we have Turkish Star Wars, also known as The Man Who Saved the World, and this is a Turkish science fiction film released in 1982. And yeah, it opens up with a futuristic spaceship where a pilot named Murat is on a mission, and he crash lands on a desolate planet where he discovers a golden pyramid. Inside the pyramid, he finds a dormant alien who turns out to be a humanoid with a mustache. The alien, who is a magical being, awakens and informs Murat that he is on a mission to save the world. To do this, he provides Murat with a special suit and laser gun, and Murat is then transported back to Earth, where he embarks on a mission to stop an evil alien who is planning on destroying the world. And after many inexplicable, disconnected events, Murat finally confronts the evil alien in a final showdown, and with the help of his magical suit and laser gun, he defeats the villain and saves the world from destruction. The film ends with Murat returning to space and the magical alien drifting back into slumber. This is regarded as one of the worst films ever made due to its laughably poor production values, nonsensical plot, and bad special effects and amateurish acting. It gained notoriety as a bad movie, attracting a cult following of fans who enjoy its unintentional humor and shortcomings, and the film's low-budget nature is evident throughout, with its use of stock footage from popular American science fiction films like Star Wars and Star Trek. The special effects, including poorly designed space creatures and spaceships, are of extremely low quality, and the plot is often described as incoherent, with disjointed and nonsensical sequences that defy explanation. This is one of the most magnificent pieces of horseshit that I've ever seen. 5 stars. Next up we have Highlander 2, The Quickening, and this is a 1991 science fiction film that is a sequel to the 1986 film Highlander, which we covered in the 80s Iceberg. Yeah, you remember that one? Remember that one, guys? Yeah. The film begins in the distant future, in a world where the ozone layer has been depleted and the Earth is suffering from extreme radiation. To protect humanity, a corporation called Shield Corporation has constructed a protective energy shield around Earth, which prevents sunlight from reaching the planet. As a result, Earth is plunged into darkness and cold. The main character, Connor, who was originally a mortal warrior, has become mortal due to the events of the first film, and he is now an old man and is responsible for the construction of the energy shield. And he meets Luis Marcus, a terrorist fighting against the corporation, and joins our cause. It is revealed that Connor's original immortality was a result of his banishment from the planet Zeist, which is now linked to Earth's current problems. He is pursued by the villainous General Katana, who is also an immortal from Zeist and seeks to kill Connor. And in the final act, Connor confronts Katana and defeats him, leading to the destruction of the energy shield, and this action allows sunlight to reach Earth once more, giving hope for the planet's recovery. This was a critical and commercial failure and is often considered one of the worst sequels ever made, and it was heavily criticized for its convoluted and contradictory storyline, which retroactively altered the origins of the Immortals and introduced the concept of Planet Zeist, which many fans found confusing and unnecessary. The film's special effects and action sequences were also criticized for being subpar, and the overall quality of the film was seen as a significant departure from the original Highlander. The decision to set the film in the dystopian future with an ozone layer was also widely panned, and the negative reception can be attributed to the film's numerous production issues that led to significant re-editing and changes in post-production. There should have only been one star. Alright, next up we have Howard the Duck, and this is a 1986 science fiction comedy film and is based off of the Marvel Comics character of the same name. The film is often cited as a critical and commercial failure and is known for its unique blend of live action and animatronic effects. The film begins on the planet Duck World, where Howard resides, and Howard is a cigar-smoking, wisecracking anthropomorphic duck who accidentally gets transported to Earth when a laser beam pulls him through space. On Earth, Howard lands in Cleveland, Ohio, where he is initially mistaken for a talking pet, and he meets Beverly, a rock singer, and helps her fend off some thugs, and then they become friends. Howard and Beverly end up uncovering a plot involving an evil scientist, Walter Jennings, who is attempting to bring an alien overlord to Earth, and the alien overlord possesses various humans, including Jennings, as a part of his plan to conquer the world. Howard, along with Beverly and a lab assistant named Phil, embark on a mission to stop the alien overlord's invasion, and they confront the possessed humans, leading to a climactic battle in which they must use a dimensional device to return the overlord to its own realm. In the final act, the battle culminates in the destruction of the alien overlord, and Howard is given the opportunity to return to Duck World. However, he decides to stay on Earth, and he and Beverly become a couple. Imagine like dating a never mind. I'm not gonna judge. This was received poorly by critics and was a commercial disappointment. Many found the humor to be forced and the overall tone to be inconsistent. The film's attempt to blend adult themes with a family-friendly character also generated controversy. The special effects, particularly the animatronic Howard, were considered to be subpar at the time, leading to the lack of realism in the character's interactions with the live-action cast. In the film's box office performance failed to recuperate its production costs and was seen as a significant misstep for George Lucas, who served as an executive producer. In the years since its release, however, the film has gained a cult following for its so bad it's good qualities and its unique place in comic book movie history. I need to take a shower immediately. 1 star. Alright, next up we have In the Name of the King, a dungeon siege tale, and this is a 2007 fantasy action film directed by Uwe Boll, and the film is based on the video game series Dungeon Siege. Jesus, not another one. And the film is set in the kingdom of Ebb, where a farmer named Farmer lives in a quiet life with his wife, Solana, and their son. However, their peaceful existence is disrupted when an army of Krugs led by the dark sorcerer Galleon attacks their village and kidnaps Solana and their son. Farmer embarks on the quest to rescue his family and seek vengeance against the Krugs, and along the way he is joined by a group of allies including the wizard Merrick and the former king's nephew, Duke Fallow. As Farmer and his group continue their journey, they discover that Galleon is using an army of Krugs to capture villagers and transform them into mind-controlled soldiers. It is revealed that Galleon serves an even greater evil, that being an ancient and powerful creature known as the Krug Queen. Duke Fallow, who initially appeared to be an ally, is revealed to be working with Galleon, and he betrays Farmer's group, and a confrontation ensues, and Farmer defeats Duke, while the group continues its mission to rescue Solana and his son. In the final act, Farmer and his group launch an assault on Galleon's fortress to rescue Solana and his son, and a climactic battle takes place, with Farmer facing Galleon and the Krug Queen, and with the help of his allies, they defeat them, and reunite with his family. I don't know. This was obviously poorly received, and the director, this is not the last time the director is going to be on this list. Uwe Boll, remember the name. There are so many bad movies that he makes, bro. It's like he enjoys it. I don't know. Despite its negative reception, the film has gained a cult following for its unintentional humor and over-the-top action sequences. 1.0 out of 10. My favorite Lord of the Wrongs movie. No dungeons were seized. 0.5 star. Alright, next up we have Jaws 3D, and this is a 1983 American horror film, and it is the third installment in the Jaws film series, and it's notable for its use of 3D technology. The film is set at SeaWorld, a marine theme park in Florida, and the story follows the Brody siblings, Mike Brody and Sean Brody, the two sons of Chief Martin Brody from the earlier Jaws films, and Mike is a park engineer at SeaWorld while Sean is visiting his older brother. SeaWorld is preparing to open a new attraction, which is a lagoon that features a baby great white shark named Sandy, and as the park staff prepares for the grand opening, there is tension between the two brothers, as Mike is more responsible and Sean is more carefree. The tension escalates when a great white shark, significantly larger than Sandy, is captured by the park's personnel and put in a display tank. The largest shark is revealed to be the mother of Sandy, and she becomes agitated and aggressive in captivity. Meanwhile, there's a subplot involving the park's owner, Calvin, who is concerned about negative publicity and potential financial losses if word gets out about the shark. As the park's grand opening approaches, the mother shark breaks free from her tank and wreaks havoc, attacking park visitors and personnel. Mike and Sean, along with park employees, attempt to rescue the park guests and stop the shark. In the climax, the shark enters the park's control room where Mike and Sean are trapped, and they manage to electrocute the shark by using underwater cables, ultimately killing it. The shark's carcass sinks to the bottom of the lagoon, and the film concludes with the park's reopening. Now, this was released during the 3D film revival in the early 1980s, and while 3D effects were a novelty at the time, they received mixed reviews, with critics finding them underwhelming. The film's storyline and characterization was also widely criticized, as they lacked the tension and depth of the original Jaws, and the decision to set the film in a theme park and introduce a new aggressive shark was seen as contrived. I was rooting for the shark all the way in this one. Fuck these dumb humans. 1.5 star. Alright, next up we have Jaws The Revenge, and this is a 1987 American horror film and the fourth installment in the Jaws film series, and it's considered one of the weakest entries in the franchise. The film opens in Amity Island, the original setting of the Jaws film, where Sean Brody, the younger son of Chief Martin Brody, is killed in a shark attack while on police duty, and Ellen Brody, Sean's mother, is devastated by the loss and becomes convinced that a great white shark is targeting their family. Ellen's other son, Michael Brody, is a marine biologist working in the Bahamas, and he is studying conch shells, and he has a wife, Carla, and a daughter, Thea. When Ellen believes the shark is seeking revenge against the Brody family, she decides to leave Amity Island and visit Michael in the Bahamas, and in the Bahamas, Ellen meets a local airplane pilot named Hoagie, and she learns that Michael is researching a sunken shipwreck and also studying conch shells. Ellen's fear of sharks becomes a central theme, and she is convinced that the great white shark that killed her son is following her family to the Bahamas. The shark actually makes its way to the Bahamas, where it continues its series of attacks targeting the Brody family, and Ellen believes she has a psychic connection with the shark and decides to confront it to protect her remaining family members. In the climax, Michael, Hoagie, and Ellen set out to confront the shark, and they lure it into a trap by using a stick of dynamite in a conch shell, and the shark is killed when the dynamite explodes, causing it to be blown to pieces. This received overwhelmingly negative reviews from both critics and audiences, and was criticized for its implausible plot, including the idea of a vengeful shark that actively seeks out and follows the Brody family across the ocean. The film's use of a psychic connection between Ellen and the shark was also a particular point of ridicule, and the acting and dialogue in the film were also criticized, including the special effects and the portrayal of the shark, especially when compared to the iconic and menacing shark from the original Jaws film. Jaws The Revenge is often considered a prime example of a franchise installment that should not have been made, and is frequently cited as one of the worst sequels in cinematic history. I legit wanted every character to die. 1 star. Alright, next up we have Left Behind, and this is a 2014 American apocalyptic thriller film based on a popular Christian book series of the same name. And the film is set in the aftermath of a rapture, which is, the biblical event where Christians are said to be taken to heaven, leaving everyone else behind. The film introduces the central character, Rayford Steele, played by Nicolas Cage, who is a pilot in the midst of a turbulent flight while struggling with his personal issues, including his strained relationship with his daughter, Chloe, who has recently become a Christian. Rayford's co-pilot, Chris Williams, is a talented journalist who becomes one of the key characters in the story. And during the flight, the rapture occurs, and a significant portion of the world's population vanishes, leaving behind only their clothes and personal belongings. This event causes chaos on the plane and around the world, as those left behind try to make sense of the sudden disappearances. This received overwhelmingly negative reviews from critics and audiences, and The film was criticized for its lackluster storytelling, bad acting, and subpar special effects. Many found the film's Christian message heavy-handed, and its attempt to blend the apocalyptic thriller genre with religious themes was unconvincing. Many fans of the books were disappointed by the film's deviations from the source material and its failure to capture the depth and complexity of the characters in the worlds they inhabited. And Left Behind is often considered a cinematic misstep, as it failed to launch the franchise it was intended to. Nicolas Cage died for our sins. 1 star. Alright, next up we have Mac and Me, and this is a 1988 American science fiction family film. And this movie is often remembered for its association with the McDonald's fast food chain and its promotion of the characters Mac and Ronald McDonald. And the movie opens with the United States government discovering the presence of extraterrestrial life on Mars, and they send a mission to investigate, but the mission inadvertently disturbs aliens, and in the process one of the aliens, named Mac, or a mysterious alien creature, is separated from his family and is accidentally brought to Earth. Mac ends up in a Southern California suburb and befriends a young boy named Eric Cruz, who uses a wheelchair. Eric discovers Mac is in his family's backyard and quickly realizes Mac has special powers. Mac communicates by creating electronic sounds and has an affinity for Coca-Cola. Eric, along with his older brother Michael and their friend Debbie, keep Mac hidden from their parents while trying to help him find his family, and the government, however, is aware of Mac's presence on Earth and begins pursuing him. The kids embark on a journey to find Mac's family, encountering various adventures and obstacles along the way, and they also attempt to keep Mac a secret from their parents, who grow increasingly concerned about their children's behavior. I mean, it's basically E.T., you know. The climax of the film takes place at a local shopping mall where Mac's family arrives to Earth, and a chaotic and humorous sequence unfolds as Mac's family members interact with Earth's culture. The government, however, arrives at the mall and a standoff occurs, but in the end, the government realizes that the aliens mean no harm and allows Mac and his family to return to their spaceship. And yeah, they go home. This was poorly received by critics and audiences, as it is regarded as one of the worst films ever made. The film's problems include the terrible plot, questionable acting, and heavy-handed product placement, particularly for McDonald's and Coca-Cola. And the movie was seen as an extended advertisement for these brands, which led to its notoriety. The characters of Mac and his family were created with puppetry and animatronics, and they received mixed reactions. And while the effects were considered slightly impressive, the characters' appearance and design drew unfavorable comparisons to other more famous extraterrestrial characters like E.T. Despite the film's poor reception, Mac and Me has gained a cult following over the years, primarily for its unintentional humor and abundance of absurd and bizarre scenes. I'm guessing this is where the term cinematic hate crime comes from. Half a star. Alright, next up we got Piranha 3DD, and this is a 2012 American horror comedy film and the sequel to the 2010 movie Piranha 3D. The film opens with the aftermath of the previous movie where prehistoric piranhas wreaked havoc during spring break at Lake Victoria. However, the chaos has since subsided and the lake has been abandoned by tourists. The opening scene features a couple sneaking into the water for a night swim, only to be attacked and devoured by piranhas. The movie primarily focuses on Maddie, who has returned to her family's water park, the Big Wet, after the death of her mother, and her stepfather Chet has turned the water park into an adult-themed attraction with a new emphasis on adult entertainment. If you watch the unrated version, you'll understand. Maddie's friends Shelby and Josh work at the water park, and they soon discover that the piranhas from Lake Victoria have made their way to the park's pools through underground tunnels, and they also learn that the water park uses water from an underground lake connected to Lake Victoria, which is how the piranhas gain access. As more visitors become victims of the bloodthirsty fish, Maddie, Shelby, and Josh, along with other employees and visitors, band together and try to stop the piranhas from causing further destruction. The film climaxes with a frenzied battle against the piranhas involving a combination of booby traps, weapons, and various comedic and over-the-top moments, and there are many absurd and gruesome deaths as the characters attempt to fend off the relentless fish. In the end, the heroes manage to thwart the piranhas' attack on the water park, saving themselves and many of the park's patrons. This received overwhelmingly negative reviews from critics and audiences, and was criticized for its crude humor, gratuitous nudity, and excessive gore, which some people found distasteful. Many considered it a cheap and exploitative attempt to capitalize on the first success of the Piranha 3D film, and the film's lowbrow humor and abundance of sexual innuendo were particularly criticized. Despite the negative reception, Piranha 3DD has since developed a cult following among fans as a campy horror comedy. This is perfect. 5 stars. Alright, next up we have Striptease, and this is a 1996 American comedy drama film based on the novel of the same name. And yeah, the movie opens with Aaron Grant working as an FBI secretary while struggling to retain custody of her young daughter, Angela, and Aaron's ex-husband, Daryl, is a corrupt and dangerous man who wants custody. Aaron's life takes a turn when she loses her job due to budget cuts, and in desperate need of money to support her legal battle for custody, she finds work as a stripper at the Eager Beaver, which is a strip club in Florida. Her new job puts her in contact with a colorful cast of characters. As Aaron performs, she gains the attention of this congressman, Dilbeck, who becomes infatuated with her, and meanwhile, she becomes entangled in a criminal plot involving blackmail, political corruption, and murder when she accidentally videotapes evidence of Dilbeck's illegal activities. The climax of the film sees Aaron trying to expose Dilbeck's criminal behavior while avoiding Daryl, who is now out of prison and trying to regain custody of Angela, and a series of comedic and suspenseful events unfold as Aaron uses the compromising videotape as leverage. Ultimately, Aaron outsmarts Dilbeck and his henchmen and is able to secure the evidence and regain custody of her daughter, and the film ends with Aaron and Angela happily reunited. This movie received largely negative reviews from critics upon its release, as it was criticized for its uneven tone, failing to effectively blend comedy and drama. The film's portrayal of stripping and nudity was seen as a major selling point, but also as a point of controversy and criticism, as some felt it objectified women. Despite the controversy and negative reviews, Striptease did manage to mitigate its budget at the box office, largely due to the surrounding curiosity of Demi Moore's role as a stripper. However, it fell off short of being a critical or commercial success, and is often remembered more for its sensationalism than storytelling. This was fucking garbage, and it made me laugh a lot. 1 star. Alright, next up we have Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, and this is a 1987 superhero film based on the DC Comics character, Superman. It is the 4th installment in the Christopher Reeve Superman series, and is known for its poor reception. The film starts off with Superman creating a nuclear disarmament initiative, and he gathers all the world's nuclear weapons and hurls them at the sun to eliminate the threat of nuclear war. As a result, the world celebrates the apparent end of the nuclear arms race, and meanwhile, billionaire businessman Lex Luthor escapes from prison and finds a hair strand of Superman, which he uses to create a genetic matrix. Luthor combines this matrix with a strand of his own hair and creates a superpowered being known as Nuclear Man. Nuclear Man becomes a powerful adversary for Superman, as he possesses superhuman abilities, including the power to drain energy from the sun, and he is sent to Earth to defeat Superman. A significant part of the movie deals with the conflicts between Superman's desire for peace and Luthor's quest for power and destruction, and Nuclear Man engages in battle with Superman, causing destruction and chaos. Superman eventually defeats Nuclear Man after a battle that takes them into outer space, and he traps Nuclear Man in an elevator and then hurls it to the surface of the moon, which lacks direct sunlight, and then Nuclear Man doesn't get any powers because of that. And then Superman goes back to Earth, and yeah, he saved the day. Now, this was a critical and commercial failure and was heavily criticized for its low production values and weak special effects and poorly executed storyline. The budget for this film was significantly reduced compared to the previous Superman films, and it showed in the final product. And the film's attempt to address real-world issues such as nuclear disarmament were viewed as heavy-handed and simplistic, and they failed to resonate with audience. And additionally, the introduction of Nuclear Man as a villain was seen as lackluster and unconvincing. And this ended up marking the decline of the Superman film series and contributed to a long hiatus in Superman-related movies. First movie ever to have a VFX budget. Alright, next up we have Vampires Suck, and this is a 2010 parody film of Twilight film series, and yeah, it introduces Becca Crane, a high school student who moves to the quirky town of Sporks, Washington. And she lives with her father, Sheriff Crane, and Becca is a parody of Bella Swan, and at school she draws the attraction of two supernatural beings, Edward Sullen, a vampire, and Jacob White, a werewolf. And yeah, obviously they're, you know, who they're parodying. Becca falls in love with Edward, and then it's literally like the plot is just mirrored. It's dumb. Nah, yeah, I don't have much to say about this one. It's kind of butt cheeks. And like these 2000, I hate these 2000s parody films. They're so like unfunny and so bad. Like if these were like posted on YouTube, I'd probably be like, okay, yeah. But no, it's the fact that they turn these things into actual movies and release them in theaters. Disappointing. Didn't even have the baseball scene, so what's the point? Half a star.
I love you, Becca.
Team Jacob, bitch!
Alright, moving on to tier 3. Yeah, let's go. First off, we have Blood Rain, and this is a 2005 action horror film directed by Uwe Boll. Not again, please. The movie opens with narration introducing the concept of Dampiers, half human and half vampire beings with unique powers, and we are introduced to the main character, Rain, who is revealed to be a Dampier. She has a tragic backstory as she witnessed her mother being raped by her vampire father, leading to her creation as a Dampier, and she escapes from a traveling circus that uses her as an attraction due to her vampiric nature. She seeks revenge on her father Kagan for his brutal actions, and it's during this time where she meets Sebastian and Vladimir, who are part of the Brimstone Society, which is a secret organization dedicating to hunting vampires. Rain, Sebastian, and Vladimir embark on a quest to locate and stop Kagan, who is reportedly seeking the mystical and powerful Eye of Beliar, and this artifact, when combined with 3 talismans, can make Kagan invincible and allow him to conquer humanity. The trio faces various challenges, including battles with vampires and other supernatural creatures, and they also encounter a variety of characters, each with their own motives and allegiances. In the climactic showdown, Rain confronts her father Kagan and battles him and prevents him from obtaining the Eye of Beliar, and with the help of her allies, they manage to kill Kagan and thwart his plans. Yeah. This received overwhelmingly negative reviews from critics and audiences alike and was criticized for its poor direction, weak storytelling, and uninspired dialogue. Many viewers found the film's action sequences to be unimpressive and the character development lacking. The film's over-reliance on gore and violence, often without any meaningful narrative purpose, was another point of criticism, and Uwe Boll's reputation as a director of critically unsuccessful video game adaptations played a significant role in the film's reception, as many believed that Blood Rain followed a pattern of poor filmmaking that had become associated with Boll's work. This man needs to stop making movies. 1 star. Alright, next up we have Caligula, and this is a controversial and extremely explicit historical drama film released in 1979. I can't show much of it. I'm not gonna lie, this is basically like, it's basically a kind of. And the film opens in 37 AD with the death of Emperor Tiberius, and Caligula, who is Tiberius' great nephew, ascends to the throne and becomes the new Roman emperor. And as time progresses, his behavior becomes increasingly erratic and tyrannical, and his sexual proclivities are laid bare when he falls in love with Drusilla, his sister, and their incestuous relationship is central to the film's controversial content. As his role becomes more oppressive, he uses his power to like fulfill all his sexual desires and fantasies, and there's like little like sexual violence, and yeah, it's wild. Yeah, I don't know, bro. It's just like a giant Roman. It was highly controversial upon its release, and its explicit sexual content, violence, and overall depravity led it to being banned in many countries and censored heavily in others. The film's mix of historical drama and explicit sexuality was perceived by many as crossing the boundaries of good taste and art. Ugh, I've got nothing else to say. 1 star. Alright, next up we have Dungeons & Dragons, and this is a 2000 fantasy film based on the popular tabletop role-playing game of the same name. Yeah, the film opens in the Empire of Izmir, where Empress Savina is struggling to maintain order in her kingdom. Her authority is challenged by the sinister Profion, who is a powerful and corrupt mage who seeks to control the all-powerful Rod of Sevril, which is a magical artifact that can control red dragons. Procyon is thwarted by Empress Savina and her allies as he attempts to seize the rod, but he manages to escape. And meanwhile, a rogue named Ridley and his bubbling friend Snails are caught for stealing from a magic shop and sentenced to hard labor. And they escape and find themselves inadvertently caught up in the struggle for the Rod of Savril. Empress Savina enlists the help of a group of heroes, including Ridley, Snails, the dwarf Elwood, and a skilled warrior, Marina, to retrieve the rod before Procyon can get his hands on it. Along their journey, they encounter mythical creatures, and as they draw closer to their goal, they face numerous challenges and threats, including a dangerous thieves guild and the treacherous Damodar, who is Procyon's right-hand man. The climax of the film takes place in the ancient underground city of Sumdal, where the heroes confront Procyon and his forces in a dramatic battle unfolds involving dragons, magic spells, and epic combat sequences. And in the end, Empress Savina and her allies manage to defeat Procyon, and the kingdom is saved. This was noted for its weak script and characters, as critics found fault in the film's plot, dialogue, and character development, and the script was criticized for being generic and failing to capture the depth and complexity of the tabletop game it was based on. The film's special effects and production values were considered subpar, with some critics citing unconvincing CGI and practical effects. And yeah, some of the performances were particularly over the top and seen as overly theatrical and campy. Despite the negative receptions, Dungeons & Dragons has achieved a degree of cult status among the fans of the fantasy genre, and its flaws and campy elements have garnered a sort of endearing charm. The Flash called, and it wants its CGI back. Half a star. Alright, next up we have House of the Dead, and this is a 2003 horror film directed by Uwe Boll. Oh no. And it's based on, an arcade game. And the film opens with a group of young adults traveling to an island to attend a rave party called the Rave of the Dead. And the group includes Simon, Alicia, Greg, Karma, and Cynthia. And they arrive on the island via a small boat and make their way to the rave, where they join other partygoers. As night falls, the group notices something is amiss when they find the rave site abandoned in ruins. The island is overrun with zombies, and the survivors realize that they must fight to stay alive. The group, armed with firearms, begins the battle against the undead, and while fighting off waves of zombies, the group comes across another small group of survivors, including Captain Kirk, who is searching for his missing first mate, Salish. They are later joined by Rudy, who crashed his plane on the island, and the survivors unite to find a way off the island, but must battle zombies to uncover the mystery of the outbreak. Captain Kirk explains that the island's sinister history involves a cursed Spanish conquistador Castillo and a relic that holds the power of life and death. The survivors make their way to a fortified house on the island and continue to fend off zombies, and Captain Kirk, who is revealed to have stolen the relic, hopes to use its power to escape. And in a climactic showdown, the group confronts Castillo. Yeah, Simon uses the relic to defeat Castillo and ends the zombie threat. And everyone escapes the island. Yeah, this is considered one of the worst video game adaptations in horror films. The film was criticized for its weak storylines, subpar acting, and excessive use of slow motion action sequences. Of course, it was directed by Uwe Boll, so you already know it was gonna be kind of doo-doo. I would give anything to unwatch this. Half a star. Alright, next up we have I Know Who Killed Me, and this is a 2007 psychological thriller film that stars Lindsay Lohan in the dual role, and it involves elements of mystery, crime, and psychological drama. The film introduces Aubrey Fleming, who is a talented pianist and writer from an affluent family, and she lives a seemingly idyllic life in a small town. Overnight, she is abducted by a sadistic serial killer who has been targeting young women, and she is subjected to horrifying torture, including the loss of both her hands, legs, and a part of her body. Her disappearance shocks the community, and her parents, Susan and Daniel, are devastated. The narrative then shifts to Dakota Moss, also played by Lindsay Lohan, who is a young woman that works as a stripper in a nightclub, and Dakota appears to have no connection to Aubrey, but she has a mysterious scar on her hand and reoccurring nightmares. When Dakota is found unconscious after a violent altercation with a customer, her medical examination reveals that she has identical scars to Aubrey's, and the revelation prompts an investigation into her past. She is questioned by police and later meets with Aubrey's parents, who are convinced that Dakota is her daughter, and as the story unfolds, Dakota starts to remember the traumatic events of her past, including the identity of her abductor and details of her captivity. She becomes determined to find the sadistic killer and uncover the truth, and yet her quest for truth takes her to her captor's lair, where she discovers disturbing photographs of her previous victims, including Aubrey. And in a tense confrontation, Dakota faces her tormentor and manages to overpower him. She rescues a chained Aubrey and calls the police, and this leads to the killer's arrest, and Dakota and Aubrey, recognizing their bond as two sides of the same person, embark on a journey of healing and self-discovery. Yeah, I don't know. This was criticized for its convoluted plot and poor execution of potentially intriguing premise and disjointed narrative. And Lindsay Lohan's performance in a dual role was also met with mixed reviews. The film received numerous Razzie Awards, which recognized the worst achievements in filmmaking, and it won 8 Razzies, including Worst Picture and Worst Actress for Lindsay Lohan. This movie blew 1 star. Alright, next up we got Manos, The Hands of Fate, and this is a low-budget independent horror film released in 1966, and it starts off with a vacationing family, Michael, his wife Margaret, and their daughter Debbie, and their dog Peppy. And they're on a road trip in the southwestern United States when they get lost and end up at a remote desert lodge. The lodge is run by the enigmatic and sinister caretaker Torgo, who worships a deity known as Manos. Despite being greeted with hostility and eerie warnings, the family decides to spend the night at the lodge as they are unable to find their way back. Torgo, who is inexplicably drawn to Margaret, reveals his devotion to Manos and declares his desire to make her one of the wives of Manos. As night falls, the family is tormented by bizarre occurrences as they witness a ritual involving the cloaked master and the women of the lodge who are his wives, and Torgo is caught peeking in the ceremony and is punished by having his hand disfigured. Torgo, who is also under the influence of Manos, offers Margaret as a sacrifice, and meanwhile, the master decides that Torgo must be eliminated for his incompetence. This movie is infamous for its poor production quality, terrible acting, and incoherent storyline, and it was initially made as a bet by the director, who claimed that he could make a successful horror film with a shoestring budget. And yeah, the production obviously was plagued by problems because of this, including issues with sound, lighting, and constraints of an extremely low budget. It's remained in obscurity for years until it was rediscovered and gained a cult status due to its reputation as one of the worst films ever made. The opposite of cinema. 1 star. Alright, next up we have One Missed Call, and this is a 2008 American supernatural horror film, and is a remake of the 2003 Japanese film of the same name. The movie follows a group of people who start receiving eerie voicemails from their own future selves foretelling the exact time and date of their deaths. The film opens with a college student, Leanne, who begins receiving strange voicemails on her cell phone, and the voicemails seem to be from her own future self as they accurately predict the date and time of her death. After Leanne's death, her best friend Beth starts investigating her demise, and she discovers that another student, Taylor, had received similar ominous voicemails. Together with a curious and concerned detective, Jack Andrews, Beth dives into the mystery. As more people in their circle receive the deadly voicemails and meet tragic ends, Beth and Jack uncover a pattern that suggests the existence of a malevolent and supernatural entity. They realize that there is a link to the mysterious deaths of Leanne and Taylor's relatives, who had also received similar messages. Beth, Jack, and Taylor work together to try to break the cycle of death, hoping to save the lives of those who received ominous voicemails, and they end up confronting the malevolent spirit responsible for the voicemails, and they break the cycle and save their own lives, and yeah, put the spirit to rest. Now, this received overwhelmingly negative reviews from critics and audiences, as it was criticized for its unoriginal plot, lackluster scares, and poor character development, and many viewers found it to be a derivative and an uninspired take on the Japanese horror genre, especially when compared to the original Japanese version. It was seen as a cash-in on the popularity of Japanese horror remakes in Hollywood, but it failed to capture the essence and atmosphere that made the original so effective. Yes, it's dumb, but like, so am I. 3 stars. Alright, next up we have Plan 9 from Outer Space, and this is a 1959 American science fiction film, and yeah. The film opens up with the announcement of mysterious events happening at a cemetery in California, and a gravedigger witnesses strange occurrences, including odd flying saucers in the sky. Meanwhile, the wife of a pilot named Jeff Trent becomes worried when her husband's flight goes off course, encountering a flying saucer. The military, led by Colonel Edwards, starts investigating the flying saucers and the unusual events surrounding them, and it is revealed that these flying saucers are manned by extraterrestrial beings, referred to as aliens in the film. The aliens have a plan referred to as Plan 9, which involves raising the dead and using them as zombies to stop humanity from developing a powerful doomsday weapon that could threaten the universe. The aliens, who communicate telepathically and are represented as humans in the film, reanimate the corpses in the cemetery, turning them into zombies, and these zombies, along with the aliens, terrorize the local population. The aliens reveal their plan to humanity, expressing their hope for peace and understanding, but warning that if Earth continues to develop destructive weapons, they will be forced to take action. And in a climactic showdown, the aliens accidentally destroy themselves using their own weapon, and as the aliens are vanquished, the resurrected zombies return to their graves. This was heavily criticized for its poor production values, awkward acting, incoherent plot, and laughable special effects, and the film's reputation as one of the worst movies ever have made it a cult classic and is often celebrated for its unintentional humor, like most, and campy qualities. Critics and audiences found it difficult to take the film seriously, and thus it has become infamous for its flaws. Well, their plan sucked. 1 star. Alright, next up we have Slender Man, and this is a 2018 horror movie based on the fictional supernatural character Slender Man, a tall, faceless, and unnerving figure that originated from internet memes and creepypastas. The film introduces us to a group of 4 teenage friends, Hallie, Ren, Chloe, and Katie, and they all live in the quiet town of Shadyside, Massachusetts, and their lives take a dark turn after they watch a disturbing video online about summoning the Slender Man, and they decide to perform the ritual to prove that he doesn't exist. Afterward, they start to experience strange and unsettling visions. Katie disappears, and her friends suspect that Slenderman might have taken her. The 3 remaining girls start experiencing horrifying hallucinations, and they seek to find a way to break the curse, and they consult a library, speak with a psychic, and even visit the home of a man who once attempted to summon Slenderman. As the film progresses, the Slenderman's influence grows, and each girl is tormented by disturbing visions, and their grasp on reality begins to weaken. They're haunted by nightmarish creatures and face physical and psychological terrors. The girls end up trying to confront the Slender Man, but their efforts are in vain as the entity's grip on them intensifies, leading to a series of tragic events. Hallie, Ren, and Chloe are all pushed to the brink of madness, with one of them even descending into a catatonic state. The movie ends on an ominous note, suggesting that the Slender Man's influence endures, and while the girls try to move on with their lives, it's clear that the malevolent force they've unleashed is far from defeated. Many people felt that the film failed to capture the creepy and enigmatic essence of the Slenderman character that made it a sensation on the internet, and the movie's plot was criticized for being disjointed and confusing, and its reliance on horror cliches and jump scares was seen as unimaginative. Additionally, it was also criticized for being released in 2018, several years after the character's peak popularity, leading to questions about the relevance of the film. And there was also a real-life connection to a tragic incident where 2 Wisconsin girls stabbed their friend in an attempt to impress Slenderman, and this also created controversy around the film's release, while some felt it was very exploitative. And yeah, this combination of factors contributed to the film's poor reception and lackluster box office performance. I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. 1.5 star. Alright, next up we have The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl 3D. Oh, this movie slaps. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I watched it when I was a kid and it slapped. I rewatched it now. It slaps, but just a little bit less. The story begins with a young boy named Max who is having trouble fitting into school, and Max is a dreamer and spends his time creating fantastical imaginary world, and he dreams of 2 superhero friends, Shark Boy and Lava Girl. One day, Max's classroom is visited by a storm, and then that storm brings Shark Boy and Lava Girl, and they come to life. They're like, Max, we need your help to save the planet Drool from Mr. Electric. Max is like, alright, bet. And then Max, Shark Boy, and Lava Girl go to Planet Drool, and it's really colorful, and the CGI is kind of butt cheeks, but it's cool. They encounter various characters and creatures and obstacles such as the Ice Princess and Train of Thought, and as they continue their quest, Max discovers that he has the power of creation and can change the course of events in the dream world, and he gets confidence, and also his bully is there. He convinces the bully to turn good, and yeah, they defeat Mr. Electric. And yeah, everyone likes Max now, and his parents aren't divorcing anymore. don't know. Now, this came out to mixed reviews. While some appreciated its creativity and the fantastical journey it portrayed, others found fault in its storytelling, special effects, and child-centric themes. Obviously, the film's target audience is primarily children and preteens, which might have contributed to the mixed reviews. Some critics also found the 3D effects and CGI to be extremely underwhelming. And, yeah. What is cinema? Cinema is commonly defined as the production of movies as an art or industry. In the masterpiece, The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl, film absolutely peaks, both as art and industry. Playing out like a dream, Shark Boy and Lava Girl can really only be compared to the Mona Lisa or Bohemian Rhapsody. Nothing else does justice to this beautifully composed, ahead of its time, exemplary period piece of the early 2000s. Close your eyes, shut your mouth, dream a dream, and get us out. Dream, 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 dream. Hit the hay, fast asleep, dream a dream, you little bleep. Dream, 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 dream. Just relax, lay about, or my fists will put you out. Dream, 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 dream. Take your time, but beware, there's darkness in the air. Dream, 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 dream. Don't despair, step right up. Need some water? Here's a cup. Dream, 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 dream. I will admit I cried when I first saw this scene. I was only 5 years old, and I could recognize a cinematic beauty when I saw it. Of course, many hacks would attempt to replicate this pure mastery of music and film, most notably the disgusting, lame 2016 flop La La Land. Listen to City of Stars and Dream and tell me Gosling is not trying to impersonate Taylor Lautner's immortal, charismatic performance. Here's to the fools who dream. Ugh, please, as if Damien Chazelle should be arrested for plagiarism. The only way I could describe this wet dream of a film is that it's The Godfather, but a lot better. Would you rather take George Lopez or Marlon Brando? I rest my case. Honestly, I can't believe the blasphemous 1.6 average for this mastery of cinematography, writing, editing, music, acting, and most importantly, special effects. If you didn't find the special effects impressive, you must have a benign brain tumor, because this is the peak of practical effects, commonly referred to as Star Wars, but not stupid as The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl is innovative in every sense of the word, and anyone who disagrees should be lynched or admitted to a psych ward. Move over, Kubrick. Robert Rodriguez is the new face of surreal beauty in a film. 5 stars. Alright, next up we have The Queen's Corgi, and this is an animated family comedy film that follows the adventures of Rex, a beloved corgi and the favorite pet of the Queen, Elizabeth II. And the film introduces Rex, the top corgi in the Buckingham Palace, and Queen Elizabeth II's favorite pup. And Rex enjoys a life of luxury and privilege, but he's also a bit arrogant and unaware of the challenges facing other dogs. During a state banquet, Rex's behavior causes chaos, leading to his temporary banishment from the Queen's presence, and Rex's exile takes him to a dog shelter where he meets a variety of dogs, each with their quirks and backgrounds. He becomes close to a dog named Wanda, and together they plan to escape the shelter and return to the palace. Rex and Wanda's journey takes them through the streets of London, where they face various challenges and meet other animals, including a gang of stray dogs. And as Rex comes to understand the life of ordinary dogs and experiences both the good and bad aspects of being a pet, he undergoes a transformation and learns the importance of loyalty, friendship, and humility. Rex, Wanda, and Charlie face a significant threat when they encounter Tyson, a menacing bulldog who becomes their adversary, and there is a climactic showdown during which Rex's loyalty and bravery are tested, and in the end, Rex triumphs over Tyson, ensuring the safety of his newfound friends and finding his way back to the palace. The film concludes with Rex humbly reuniting with the Queen and recognizing the value of his relationship with the other dogs. Now, this came out to mixed to negative reviews with several reasons contributing to it, one being that the critics and audiences found fault with the quality of animation, considering it subpar compared to other contemporary animated films, and many viewers found the plot was predictable and lacked originality, adhering to a formulaic structure common in many animated family movies. The characters seemed a bit stereotyped and cliched, and the humor and themes may have been too specific to the British culture and monarchy, limiting its appeal to a broader international audience. I'm not surprised or disappointed. but that didn't even make this slightly better. Half a star. Alright, next up we have Titanic 2, The Legend Goes On. And this is an animated film that was controversial and poorly received because of its take on the tragic story of the sinking of the Titanic. The film opens with the departure of the Titanic, and on board there's a mix of human and animal passengers. Angelica, a young well-to-do girl, is headed to America with her evil stepmother and stepsisters, and she is separated from her dog, a ragtime playing mouse, and several friends as they board the ship. In parallel, we meet a group of passengers from the lower decks, including a thieving, dancing crocodile, and Angelica ends up befriending a group of people and falls in love with William, a poor artist. As the Titanic sails, various subplots ensue as the characters experience their share of adventures, including a heist, a love story between two mice, and a singing competition, and the evil stepmother plots to marry Angelica off to a wealthy man aboard the ship. Meanwhile, the iceberg approaches and the crew's negligence is evident, and the Titanic ultimately collides with the iceberg. The ship begins to sink and passengers panic, and amid the chaos, our main characters try to escape and save one another. Angelica and William find themselves in danger, and they escape with the help of the ragtime playing mouse, and Angelica's evil stepmother is left behind. The film concludes with the survivors aboard lifeboats as rescue ships arrive, and William and Angelica are safely reunited. This was met with extremely negative reviews and is often considered one of the worst animated films ever made. The animation quality is notably subpar, and the film's attempt to blend a tragic historical event like the Titanic disaster with a talking animal plot is seen as highly insensitive and inappropriate. By far the worst thing to happen in 2001. Half a star. Alright, next up we have Tier 4. Hope you guys are having fun, man. And first off, we have 365 Days 2.
No! No! No!
Pain. Half a star. Alright, next up we have Fear.com, and this is a 2002 horror film, and the film is known for its foray into the genre of supernatural horror and focuses on a sinister website that brings doom to those who visit it. The film opens with an investigation of string of murders in New York City, and all the victims have one common connection. They had visited a website called Fear.com just before their deaths, and the website is rumored to show a live stream of people suffering in agony. The deaths are gruesome, with each victim experiencing horrifying visions before dying under mysterious circumstances. Detective Mike Riley is assigned to the case, and he teams up with Department of Health researcher Terry Huston to solve the mystery. They discover that the website is not only a viral death trap, but is also linked to a deranged doctor named Alistair Pratt. Riley and Terry delve deeper into the mystery, and as they investigate, each visit to the site leads to a series of nightmarish visions and supernatural experiences. They also learn about Dr. Pratt, a former physician who is responsible for gruesome experiments that are featured on the website. And they also uncover that the website is fueled by the malevolent spirit of Pratt's daughter, who seeks revenge for the atrocities that her father committed. In the climactic showdown, Riley confronts Dr. Pratt, leading to a confrontation in an abandoned warehouse. Riley ultimately defeats Dr. Pratt, and the two protagonists attempt to shut down the website. However, they discover that it has taken on a life of its own and cannot be easily eradicated. The movie ends ambiguously with the implication that the website's evil may persist. Now, this received overwhelmingly negative reviews from critics and audiences, as it was criticized for its unoriginal concept, drawing comparisons to other supernatural horror movies with similar themes, and some viewers found the film's explicit and gratuitous gore and violence to be more repulsive than scary, leading to accusations of excessive shock value. The movie's convoluted and poorly explained plot left many viewers disoriented and frustrated, and critics noted that the characters lacked depth, making it challenging for the audience to become emotionally invested in their fates. The fucking website is fear.com. Half a star. Alright, next up we got Max Steel, and this is a 2016 science fiction superhero film based on the popular action figure and animated TV series of the same name. And the film opens with a mysterious accident at a research facility that seemingly claims Dr. Edward's life. However, his teenage son, Max, and his mother, Molly, survive the tragedy and relocate to the small town of Copper Canyon. As Max attends his new school, he discovers that he has superhuman abilities, which he struggles to control, and has the power to generate energy he calls turbo energy. And when he becomes agitated, this energy becomes destructive. Max learns that his power is linked to his father's work, and his life takes a turn when he encounters an alien symbiotic creature named Steel. And Steel can merge with Max to create a techno-organic being with advanced abilities, and together become Max Steel. As Max and Steel investigate their origins, they uncover that Dr. Edwards is still alive and his consciousness exists within Steel. They also learn that the M-Base project was meant to harness the energy of their home planet, which was destroyed by a deadly entity called Dread. Dr. Miles Edwards has been hiding on Earth to prevent Dread from gaining access to the powerful energy source, and Max Steel is determined to stop Dread from finding the energy source on Earth, and this quest forms the central conflict of the film. Max's abilities and combat skills are put to the test as he fights against Dread's minions, and in the final showdown, Max Steel confronts Dread and his forces, and with the help of his newfound knowledge of powers, he manages to defeat Dread and safeguard the energy source, and Dr. Edwards reconciles with Max and entrusts him with the mission to protect the energy source from falling into the wrong hands. Now, this was received pretty poorly, as the film was faulted for its lack of character development, with many viewers finding it challenging to connect with the characters. Critics pointed out that the script and plot were cliched and unoriginal, offering little to distinguish Max Steel from other superhero origin stories. The special effects, particularly during the action sequences, were considered subpar, which hindered the film's ability to deliver visual, engaging superhero moments, and the chemistry between Max and Steel was criticized, as some felt that the relationship between the protagonist and his alien partner lacked depth. Commands, half a star. Alright, next up we have The Starving Games, and yes, man, I just love these fucking 2000s parody spoof movies, man. It's great. This was directed by the same guy that makes those other spoof movies like Scary Movie and Epic Movie, Disaster Movie, the shit that we talked about earlier, the shit that we love so much. And this one parodies The Hunger Games, and it's just a whole bunch of bullshit. It's about Can't Miss living in District 12 who volunteers for the Starving Games to save her sister. You know how it goes. Yeah. Oh my god, it's so dumb, dude. It's just a whole bunch of gags. It's so dumb. Audiences hated it, obviously. Absolutely awful, but simultaneously one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Half a star. Alright, moving on. We are at tier 5. Yeah, let's go, man. Are you guys having fun? I'm having fun. Alright, first off we have Captain America, and this is the 1990 version of Captain America, and was a superhero action movie based on the Marvel Comics. Cap. The film begins during World War II with Red Skull, a Nazi agent, searching for a mysterious device which is capable of destroying entire cities. To stop him, the US government recruits Steve Rogers, a frail but determined young man, for an experimental procedure that turns him into a super soldier, Captain America. He is then tasked with thwarting Red Skull's plans and preventing the destruction of Washington, D.C. Red Skull attempts to launch the device, causing an explosion, and Captain America is launched into the Arctic Ocean, where he's frozen in ice and remains in suspended animation for decades. Years later, in the 1990s, Captain America is discovered and thawed out, and he awakens in a world he doesn't recognize. However, he discovers that Red Skull is still alive, and he teams up with spirited inventor Dr. Kimball and his daughter Sharon to track down and stop Red Skull. And yeah, they go on a journey to fight him and stop his evil schemes. Now, this received largely negative reviews from both critics and audiences, as the film was produced on a limited budget, which was apparent in its special effects and overall production quality. The costume design for Captain America was criticized for its lack of fidelity to the comic book character, and the movies also took liberties with the original Captain America story, which frustrated fans who expected a more faithful adaptation. I give this movie credit for giving us the first mentally handicapped superhero in film history. Half a star. Alright, next up we have Far Cry, a 2008 action film directed by UFO Ball. Yes! The movie opens with ex-Marine and charter boat captain Jack Carver taking a female journalist, Valerie, to a remote tropical island in Micronesia, and Valerie is investigating the suspicious activities of Dr. Krieger, a mad scientist who has set up a research facility on the island. As they arrive on the island, they quickly realize things are not what they seem. They are ambushed by heavily armed mercenaries led by Krieger's right-hand man, and Jack is separated from Valerie, who is captured by the mercenaries. Jack, determined to rescue Valerie, embarks on a mission to navigate the treacherous island filled with lush jungles and dangerous wildlife to locate the mercenaries' camp and confront Krieger. Jack's journey is fraught with intense action sequences as he battles mercenaries. He ultimately infiltrates Krieger's research facility, where he discovers that Krieger is conducting genetic experiments on humans to create super soldiers, and Jack faces off against Krieger and his enhanced soldiers, and yeah, they fight. And then he rescues Valerie and puts an end to the experiments. Yeah, this received largely negative reviews from critics and audiences, as this, the film was criticized for its direction and screenplay, with the viewers finding the storytelling and character development to be lackluster, and fans of the Far Cry video game series felt that the movie failed to capture the essence and spirit of the game, deviating significantly from the source material. Listened to MF Doom the whole time, didn't watch a single minute. Half a star. Alright, next up we have North, and this is a 1994 comedy drama film, and it tells the story of a young boy named North who, feeling unloved and misunderstood by his parents, embarks on a journey to find new ones around the world. The film opens with a young boy, North, played by Elijah Wood, who feels unappreciated and unloved by his parents, who are constantly preoccupied with their work, and he decides to legally divorce his parents. He then embarks on a journey to find new parents who will appreciate and understand him, and he travels across the globe, meeting various sets of parents who are willing to adopt him. As his journey takes him to multiple locations, each with its own set of eccentric parents, he encounters strange and humorous situations along the way, as well as different cultures and lifestyles. Yeah, and in the end, he realizes the value of his original family, and it concludes with a heartwarming reconciliation between North and his parents. Now, this was received with overwhelmingly negative reviews from critics and audiences, as the film struggled with tone, often veering between whimsical humor and emotional sincerity, and some people found this inconsistency pretty jarring, and the film's plot revolving around a child's journey to divorce his parents and find new ones was seen as off-putting and pretty dumb. In some of the film's humor is derived from cultural and ethnic stereotypes, which garnered criticism for its insensitivity. Come on, it can't be as bad as everybody says. Yes, it can. 1.5 star. Alright, next up we have Turks in Space, and this is a 2006 Turkish science comedy film, and it's a sequel to the Turkish Star Wars movie. Remember that one? Well, I don't know, bro. I feel like we're starting to get to a point as we get lower on this iceberg where these movies are just becoming, I don't know. Like, I'm starting to appreciate those early 2000s. Nah, never mind. I didn't understand a thing even when trying to read subtitles. All I could see was sex, space, Turks, and Star Wars. One thing's for sure, this piece of film was a piece of ass. Half a star. Alright, moving on to tier 6. Yeah. First off, we have 2001, A Space Travesty, and this is a 2000 Canadian-German science fiction comedy film, and it's a parody of science fiction and spy movies. Yeah. It's you know, I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those, you know. Was received poorly by critics and audiences, as it relies heavily on parody and satire. While the lead actor, Leslie Nielsen, is known for his comedic roles, the humor in the film was considered uninspired and repetitive, and the film features a barrage of cliche and dated humor which didn't resonate with many audiences at the time. Travesty is certainly the right word for this. Half a star. Alright, next up we have Reefer Madness, and this is a 1936 propaganda film that was originally intended to be a morality tale, warning against the dangers of marijuana use. The film opens with a stern warning about evil weed and the consequences of using marijuana, and tries to convey the message that using marijuana will lead to moral degradation and insanity. The story introduces us to Bill and Mary, a clean-cut couple, and the young people are exposed to marijuana for the first time, and they are initially hesitant but persuaded to try it, and then they literally have hallucinations, hysteria, and literally just go insane. And then they become criminals. Oh my god. They become criminals and get involved in hit and run accidents, manslaughter, and there's even attempted rape. Yeah, and then they get arrested. Yeah, it's one of those. You know what, I'd rather watch the 2000s parodies than this bullshit. I want to live in this reality that the movie puts forward, where niggas were smoking absolute doo-doo and shit, turd runts, and committing multiple homicides. 1 star. Alright, next up we have Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, and this is a 1964 low-budget science fiction comedy film. And yeah, it starts off by introducing the Martian society, which is facing a problem as their children are miserable and have no joy in their lives. So the leader of Mars decides to journey to Earth to bring Santa Claus back and bring happiness to their children, and they use a spaceship to travel to Earth. And on Earth, the story shifts to the North Pole, where Santa Claus is preparing preparing for Christmas with elves. Then the Martians kidnap Santa along with 2 Earth children, Billy and Betty, and they all go to Mars. On Mars, Santa and the children are introduced to the Martian way of life, which is devoid of joy and cheer, and the Martians want Santa to bring happiness to their children. And then one of the Martian leaders is opposed to Santa being there and tries to like sabotage them. Oh my god. And then Santa brings Christmas to Mars, and then there's like this other Martian that he likes, and he's like, bro, you could be Mars Santa Claus. And then Santa and the kids go back to Earth. Now this was kind of received poorly, as the film was widely regarded as having poor production values, including amateurish special effects and low budget sets, and over time the movie has gained a cult following due to its campy charm, even though its initial reception was far from positive. This is literally a perfect movie. 5 stars. Tier 7. Moving on. Let's go. Yeah. This is great, man. I'm having so much fun. I've gotten so tired of these fucking movies, bro. I've been watching them like throughout the year, and some of them, I'm not even gonna lie, like I wrote explanations down for them, but some of them are just like as time went on, when I would watch them, I'd just be like, oh my god, fuck this movie. As we get deeper down, it's just like, damn, these sucked. Like the ones at the beginning, they're actually kind of funny to watch because they're so bad, and these ones are just like butt cheeks. All right, next up we got The Conqueror, and this is a 1956 historical drama film. It's about this guy named Chief Temujin, but it's literally, he's Genghis Khan. And the story begins with him as a young man, and he falls in love with this woman from like a rival tribe named Bortai, and he kidnaps her. But then she gets taken back, and then Genghis gets captured, and then they start to fall in love. and she helps him escape. Oh my god. And there's like a series of battles and skirmishes with like the rival tribes, and the film's climax centers on a pivotal battle between Genghis Khan and his forces against the Tartar army, which is the tribe that his girl was from. This film is notorious for its controversial casting choices. They casted John Wayne, the most American white guy, in the role of Genghis Khan, a Mongol warrior, an Asian man. And obviously this choice was widely criticized and seen as culturally insensitive and historically inaccurate. And also they filmed this in St. George, Utah, and the place was contaminated with radioactive fallout from nuclear tests, and this led to like several people getting cancer, including John Wayne. It's literally responsible for the deaths of a handful of cast and crew. This is probably the only movie in history to genuinely give someone cancer. 1.5 star. Alright, next up we have The Creeping Terror, and this is a 1964 American science fiction film. It starts off with the crash landing of a spaceship in a rural community, and the pilot inside the spaceship is killed in the crash, and the rescue team is dispatched to investigate, and they discover a strange, shaggy, tentacled creature inside the ship, and this alien is referred to as the Creeping Terror, and it slowly creeps along the ground, and it moves to the town and causes chaos, and it pulls victims under its creeping tentacles, and yeah, it's pretty laughable. It's funny. This one's actually kind of funny. This astronaut guy ends up like trying to save the day, and yeah, whatever. Pretty sure this was a class project for a kindergarten class somewhere. Nice work, you guys. Keep trying. You're doing great. 0.5 star. Alright, next up we have United Passions, and this is a 2014 French drama film that explores the history of FIFA. It's literally a biopic of FIFA, bro. Like, it was boring as fuck. If you like soccer, you'll probably like it. I'm not a fan. You know, for a film called United Passions, there's no passion even to be found here in just about anything involved with this film. 0.5 star. Alright, next up we have Zat, and this is a 1971 low-budget science fiction horror film, and it's about this guy named Dr. Leopold who like is determined to advance the evolution of humans into water-breathing creatures, and he experiments on himself and turns into a monstrous fish-human hybrid, giving him superhuman strength and the ability to breathe underwater. And then he becomes mad because he believes that humanity is responsible for the pollution and degradation of the environment. So he seeks revenge and tries to create an army of hybrid creatures, and local authorities are like, hey, you can't do that. And then yeah, he just goes into the sea and escapes, and I guess just lives there forever. I don't know. I don't fucking know, man. Serious question: is Dr. Z based on the Zodiac Killer? 4.5 stars. All right, moving on to tier 8. Yes, dude. Y'all don't understand how fucking tired I am, bro. First off, we have Fatal Deviation, and this is a 1998 Irish martial arts film. This movie's great. This guy who lives in Ireland, his dad dies, and he like investigates. He discovers that his dad, being a police officer, was trying to like expose some local criminals, and this guy literally just goes John Wick. It's an Irish guy just going John Wick on a whole bunch of people. I don't know why it's so low though. Probably because it looks so bad. I mean, just look at the poster and you know what you're getting into. 3 stars. All right, next up we have the Babe Ruth story, and this is a 1948 biographical sports film, and it literally portrays Babe Ruth as a god. Like, he literally heals a dog. I think he like, can't remember if he cures like a boy of his blindness or some shit. It's so dumb, dude. It's the only thing that cheers me up after watching this movie is knowing probably everyone responsible for making it is dead by now. 1 star. Yeah, Babe Ruth literally watched this and then died afterwards. Alright, next up we have The Terror of Tiny Town. This is a 1938 Western film. It's an all little people cast, which was pretty rare at the time. Pretty rare now. And it's just a Wild West film. It's literally just a Wild West film with little people in the 1930s, so pretty much what you would expect. Vindicates my refusal to watch any film made before 2017. 1.5 star. Alright, next up we have this movie. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the word because it literally gets like blocked and shit, but they saved Hitler's brain. Wow. It's a 1968 American science fiction film involving that Nazi scientists preserved Adolf's brain and are going to revive him. And it follows these scientists transporting Adolf's brain in a fucking jar and try to make a clone body for Hitler. And then these American agents are like, hey, you can't do that. So they fight to try and destroy his brain. Yeah, I don't know. Someone made this. Now save mine. 0.5 star. And next up we have Things, and this is a low budget 1989 Canadian horror film. I don't know, dude. I really don't know. These 2 guys, Don and Fred, visit the house of Doug, and Doug and Susan have been able to like make artificial pregnancy, and then she gives birth to insects and then dies. And then these creatures like are bad. Yeah, they basically just fight these creatures that this woman gave birth to. Today I watched Things with a 100+ people on the biggest screen it's ever played. The credits rolled and no one left. It was glorious. 5 stars. And lastly we have Transylvania. This is a 2009 American comedy horror film, and it's just a parody of the horror genre. It's literally this group of college kids go to Transylvania, and there's just so many titties and I have nothing to say about it. Sonic was better. I have not seen Sonic. 0.5 star. Alright, we're done. I kind of regret making this, but I've also come so far in editing and already like having clips ready and shit that it's like I might as well finish it. My brain hurts, man. I think I would do this again, but with maybe actual good fucking movies and not some of this doo-doo. Still, rather than watch all of these movies again, I would literally rather be roofied, taken to a discreet warehouse, and be forced to watch Pluto Nash in 3D 500 times. I love you guys.